Chapter 30:29. I must be seeing things. Rumble. Rumble. As soon as the butterfly Starry Sky Fortress rushed into the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb, it immediately attracted countless green and golden lightning bolts. The lightning bolts bombarded the fortress from all directions as if it was an invader. This was a world of lightning. All foreign objects would be rejected immediately. And this rejection, as the most powerful and violent lightning in the world, was a means of destruction. In an instant, the huge butterfly Starry Sky Fortress was drowned in the countless green and golden lightning bolts. But at the same time, a layer of black death ray energy shield appeared on the surface of the fortress. It was so thick that it was almost solid. When the green and golden lightning bolts came into contact with this death ray energy shield formed by antimatter light energy, their power was quickly cancelled out. Therefore, as long as this black death ray energy shield didn't disappear, the butterfly Starry Sky Fortress wouldn't be damaged. This was a 100,000-meter long Starry Sky Fortress with a death ray energy shield. If it were a 50,000-meter long Starry Sky Fortress, it wouldn't be able to withstand the power of the lightning bolts. The black death ray energy shield and energy cannons weren't a secret in terms of technical level. The human race also had them, but the antimatter light energy generation equipment was too large. Therefore, only a 100,000-meter long Starry Sky Fortress like this could be equipped with them. This was also why a 100,000-meter long Starry Sky Fortress was a whole level higher in terms of offensive power and survivability compared to a 50,000-meter long Starry Sky Fortress. The difference between the two wasn't as simple as the difference in size. However, although the butterfly Starry Sky Fortress was protected from the lightning bolts after entering the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb because of the special properties of the black death ray energy shield, this was only temporary and limited. This was because at every moment, the countless bolts of lightning that enveloped the gigantic ship were draining the black death ray energy of the death ray energy shield. This was a terrifying consumption of energy. Even a true Starry Sky Fortress would not be able to hold on for long. In addition, the butterfly Starry Sky Fortress had a certain advantage in the speed of the black death ray energy shield when it was consumed in the outer regions. However, once it entered the depths of the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb, the amount and power of the lightning bolts would greatly increase, and the speed of the black death ray energy shield would decrease. In that case, the butterfly Starry Sky Fortress would die. Therefore, even the butterfly Starry Sky Fortress didn't dare to enter the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb. At the same time the butterfly Starry Sky Fortress was at the outer regions, Yixian didn't know any of this. Butterfly Starry Sky Fortress. He didn't know where the butterfly Starry Sky Fortress came from. Starry Sky Fortress was Starry Sky Starry Sky. In this mysterious world where lightning bolts blotted out the sky and blocked all vision, spiritual sense and mental energy, Yixian's spiritual sense and mental energy weren't restricted at all. He had refined the Rai Di seal, and his body was like the Emperor of Lightning. Therefore, the lightning bolts wouldn't dare to interfere with his spiritual sense or mental energy. Have you ever seen a commoner dare to offend the Emperor's might? The Heaven Cutter Starry Sky Fortress and the Butterfly Starry Sky Fortress were both enormous objects, but one was 50,000 meters in diameter, while the other was 100,000 meters in diameter. The colors of the ships were also different. Therefore, Yixian could tell the difference at a glance. In that instant his mind went blank. He immediately realized that something was wrong. There was no way this was a human warship. Judging from its size, it was a real Starry Sky Fortress. If he wasn't mistaken, it must have come from the Celestial Legacy race. In other words, the main fleet of the Celestial Legacy race had finally arrived. After realizing this, Yixian couldn't help but worry about the safety of the human fleet. Although he couldn't follow them back to the third universe, he was still a member of the human race. Moreover, the purplish warbler was still in the Heaven Cutter. Unfortunately, none of this could be affected or changed by his subjective opinion. Not to mention that the Celestial Legacy race's Starry Sky Fortress had already arrived. Even before this Silver Starry Sky Fortress arrived, what could Yixian do when facing the human fleet other than flee? Now that the situation had developed to this extent, the only thing he could do was hope that the human fleet could successfully escape. There was nothing else he could do. As a matter of fact, he was in even more trouble now, even more so than before. After all, the Celestial Legacy race's Silver Starry Sky Fortress definitely wouldn't have entered the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb for no reason. They were clearly here for Yi Xian. This also explained another problem. Either the human fleet had already been destroyed, or they had already escaped. Otherwise, the Celestial Legacy race's Starry Sky Fortress wouldn't have the time to deal with him. Given that there was still a short time, it was more likely that they had already escaped. At this thought, Yi Xian immediately felt relieved. However, at the same time, his heart immediately rose to his throat. Originally, it was very simple. Previously, he was being chased by a small Starry Sky Fortress that wanted to take him away to protect him. However, it was different now. The small Starry Sky Fortress chasing after him had become a real Starry Sky Fortress. Furthermore, the Celestial Legacy race had turned from allies to enemies. The severity of the situation made him speechless. It was life-threatening. Fortunately, this is the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb, and fortunately, I have already refined the Rai-D seal. In this world, I am the only Emperor Realm Master. I hope I can use this advantage to successfully escape this calamity. With a gloomy expression, Yi Xian muttered to himself. His figure flickered, and he entered a state of concealment. He strode towards the deepest core of the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb. He was the only one who could maintain such a state of concealment in this kind of region where the fierce thunder and lightning were everywhere. If it was anyone else, even a supreme existence in the mystic light realm, it would be impossible for them to do so. They would instantly be struck back to their original form by the lightning and thunder. There was no room for negotiation. Just as Yi Xian entered a state of concealment and disappeared into the depths of the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb, Shanbo and Ning Tai, the two higher-ups of the Celestial Legacy race, were in the command cabin on the top floor of the Silver Butterfly Fortress, which was being bombarded by countless bolts of blue lightning and golden lightning. Their eyes narrowed at the same time as they muttered to themselves. Strange, I think I saw a figure walking naked in the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb? Chapter 30:30. Finally fulfilled as Yi Xian's figure entered Shanbo and Ning Tai's field of vision in less than half an instant. Neither of them saw him clearly. After muttering to themselves, they quickly threw this matter to the back of their minds. After all, in this Starry Sky Lightning Graveyard, even a small fortress with a diameter of 50,000 meters could not be guaranteed to remain unscathed. Therefore, crossing this area with just one's physical body was simply too inconceivable. It was impossible. The reason why they entered this place to search for Yi Xian's Dongshu shuttle was because in their opinion, Yi Xian was very likely to be Prince Xian of the human race. If that was really the case, then this Prince Xian was such a stunning figure who could secretly take away the two scout fortresses of the Demon Scout Army and boldly enter the Demon Star region. It was absolutely impossible to say that he did not have some tricks up his sleeve. Perhaps he could really survive in this harsh environment of the Starry Sky Lightning Graveyard. Therefore, they held a trace of a fluke mentality and entered to search. It was completely with the intention of treating a dead horse as a living horse. Let's start searching and see if that small purple warship is still there. If it's not, it was probably destroyed by these green and golden lightning. I hope that's not the result. Otherwise, my plan to start a relationship with the human race or the demon race will be aborted. It's rare that I have some interest in this guy called Zhang Wuji. I find him quite pleasing to the eye. This kind of opportunity doesn't come by often. Creak, creak. As soon as Shanbo finished speaking, Ning Tai replied as if he was talking to himself. Shanbo clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes were about to spit fire. After a short while, this Starry Sky Butterfly Fortress slowly moved around the outskirts of the Starry Sky Lightning Graveyard. At every moment the energy consumption was terrifying. Even Shanbo and Ning Tai were pained. At the same time, in the depths of the Starry Sky Lightning Graveyard, outside of this area, the cyan lightning balls had already reached 100 meters in size, and the color was incomparably dense. As for the golden lightning bolts, each of them had a diameter of 10 meters, and were even more dazzling than the sun, directly burning people's eyes. Yi Xian had no doubt that a single bolt of green lightning or a bolt of golden lightning could blast a stellar-level warship with a diameter of 3,000 meters into smithereens. However, he was completely unscathed as he stood there with his physical body. All of the green lightning and golden lightning revolved around its body, not touching it. However, it carried an amiable feeling, incomparably joyous. After all, they were in the depths of the lightning graveyard. The green lightning and golden lightning here were much more powerful. To put it in a more human-like manner, they were much bolder. They no longer retreated far away in fear. Instead, they followed closely behind him. Because of this, no matter where Yi Xian went in this area, he would always be surrounded by green lightning and golden lightning. However, they didn't hurt him, nor did they have the ability to. Under the effect of the Rai-D seal, Yi Xian's entire body was now immune to lightning. Not to mention that there was no contact at all. Even if there was contact, there wouldn't be any reaction. This situation was also greatly beneficial for him to condense the thunder origin bead. At least he didn't need to search for lightning bolts everywhere. They would gather happily by themselves. In 3 months he had to condense 10 thunder origin beads. Yi Xian didn't dare to delay, nor could he afford to delay. He immediately began to condense them. He was very nervous about condensing the first thunder origin bead. After all, if it took a month or half a month to condense a single thunder origin bead, then this time system exploration mission would be completely over. He wasn't willing to bear the consequences. It was too painful. Rumble, Kacha, Kacha. As the Rai-D seal was brought out by Yi Xian and hung above his head, the entire depths of the thunder graveyard exploded in an instant, as if a ladle of ice water had been poured into a pot of boiling oil. Countless green lightning bolts were attracted and exploded above Yi Xian's head. A sea of golden lightning bolts struck down and wreaked havoc on Yi Xian's head. However, all of this couldn't cause any harm to Yi Xian. The surface of his body was always shrouded in a thin layer of green mist. He stood in the void where the lightning was wreaking havoc with his hands behind his back, exuding a thick emperor's aura. He was unfazed by anything. Large amounts of green lightning and golden lightning gradually enveloped the Rai-D seal, and even Yi Xian's entire body. In the end, it formed a huge lightning cocoon with green lightning and golden lightning flashing incessantly. Yi Xian, with the Rai-D seal above his head, was the core of this huge lightning cocoon. At this moment, the green hazy mist that originally enveloped his body suddenly expanded and spread outwards, enveloping the entire giant green-gold cocoon, and turning it into a misty green color. Then it began to condense inwards. The entire process was basically the same as what Yi Xian saw in the inheritance of the Rai-D seal. After an unknown amount of time, in the end, the giant cocoon that was like a small meteor and formed from hundreds of millions of bolts of green lightning and golden lightning finally disappeared. On the other hand, a golden thunder origin bead appeared above the Thunder Emperor seal that floated above Yi Xian's head. It was only the size of a pigeon's egg, but it emitted an invisible pressure that could destroy the heavens and earth. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly came to a realization in his heart. It seemed that the purpose of condensing this thunder source bead was not just to complete the system's exploration mission. The system's exploration mission was just a pretext, and the reward of 10 thunder source beads was a huge fortune for Yi Xian. This thunder source bead was obviously equivalent to a one-time use lightning attribute magic treasure, but its power was terrifying. According to Yi Xian's estimation, if he threw out 1 thunder source bead, it was estimated that even the supreme existence of the 10th realm of the heavenly insight realm would be wiped out in an instant. The power of a small thunder source bead formed by the extreme compression of hundreds of millions of thunderbolts and lightning could be imagined with one's toes. Realizing this, Yi Xian's enthusiasm immediately increased, and his entire body became excited. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If it were any other place, condensing 1 thunder source bead would require an endless amount of effort and energy, but here almost everything came naturally. Under such circumstances, not to mention 10 thunder source beads, even if he had to condense 100 thunder source beads, he would be willing. If he missed this opportunity, there wouldn't be another one. Just as Yi Xian was getting excited, the successfully condensed thunder source bead entered the Rai-D seal with a flash. This thunder source bead was too strong, and other than the Rai-D seal, no other storage magic treasure could store it. Once stored, there was a possibility of it exploding at any time, and the loss was not worth it. At this point, Yi Xian finally got what he wanted, and successfully condensed the first thunder source bead. After the thunder source bead entered the Rai-D seal, he finally spared some time to check the time. It had been exactly 3 days. Chapter 30-31. Thundersea Fortress. The first Thunder Origin Pearl took 3 whole days to condense. However, that was because it was Yi Xian's first time and he was still a little unfamiliar with it. According to his calculations, as Yixian became more familiar with the next 9 Thunder Origin Pearls, the time required to condense the final Thunder Origin Pearl would definitely be shorter. That was indeed the case. For the next 9 Thunder Origin Pearls, the time required for Yixian to successfully condense them was indeed shorter than the previous one. When it came to the final Thunder Origin Pearl, it actually took less than 2 days to condense it. A total of 10 Thunder Origin Pearls had been condensed in just over 2 months. There was still 1 week left before the 3-month time limit for the system's exploration. When the final Thunder Origin Pearl was successfully condensed and was absorbed into the Rai-D seal, the familiar sound of the Devouring system finally rang out in Yixian's mind. Ding! Congratulations, leader! Exploration mission of Thunder Origin creation completed. Title upgraded. Current title: Interstellar Explorer. Ding! Congratulations, host. Ability of Interstellar Explorer activated. Do you wish to immediately initiate an interstellar coordinate jump? As the 2 system notifications rang out, Yixian felt his entire body and mind relax. He felt so light that he almost flew. He had finally completed the system's exploration mission this time. The system's title had finally reached the 3rd level of Interstellar Explorer. He finally had the ability to initiate an interstellar coordinate jump. In other words, the current Yixian had nothing to fear even if he met a supreme being of the 10th realm, the Grotto Heaven realm. With a single thought, he could initiate an interstellar coordinate jump and instantly enter the black hole of life. Not only was the black hole Yixian's secret escape route, but it was also his territory. Countless star ladles were stationed there. Even if a supreme being of the Grotto Heaven realm appeared, Yixian could command the star ladle army to crush him. For a moment, Yixian was in high spirits. He felt a sense of exultation. From this moment on, he no longer had to be careful and patient in the devil domain. Even if he was in danger, without using the Weeping Soul Bloodhorn and the Headless Infant Corpse, he would at least be able to protect himself. With a thought, the Rai-D seal, which was originally floating above Yixian's head, instantly disappeared into Yixian's body and returned to his knowledge sea, floating in the middle of it. Thanks to the addition of 10 Thunder Source Pearls, even Yixian could clearly sense that the Rai-D seal was different from before. When the Rai-D seal returned, the 4 treasures and crystals hovering above his mind became even quieter. There was a feeling of awe. Even the headless corpse on Yixian's left chest, which had transformed into a headless corpse lamp tattoo, seemed to move slightly at this moment. However, it only moved slightly. It felt as if, with the 10 Thunder Source Pearls as a foundation, the Rai-D seal finally had the qualifications to be looked at by the headless infant corpse. This was Yixian's intuition, but he believed it without a doubt. The headless infant corpse was really mysterious and powerful. However, even though the Rai-D seal had returned to Yixian's body, the 3-inch thick layer of green mist still remained. This layer of green mist had originated from the Rai-D seal. Thanks to the 10 Thunder Source Pearls inside the Rai-D seal, the Emperor's might had increased tremendously. This was immediately reflected on Yixian's body. Previously, in the depths of the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb, the much more powerful green and golden lightning bolts had only been close to it. They were not like the similar existences in the periphery who would retreat out of fear. But now, with the great increase in the power of the Thunder Emperor seal, perhaps a part of the reason why it had consumed countless green lightning and golden lightning to condense into 10 Thunder Origin beads, directly led to the fact that in the depths of the Thunder Tomb, a large amount of green lightning and golden lightning far surpassed the surrounding area. When faced with the Thunder Emperor's might that emanated from Yixian's body, they actually displayed a scene of retreating far away due to fear. At this moment, Yixian stood there with his hands behind his back. However, there was not a single green lightning bolt or golden lightning bolt within 100 feet of him. An invisible and dense Emperor's might radiated from him, looking down on the entire boundless Thunder Tomb. His aura was unparalleled for a moment. Following the completion of the system's exploration mission, Yixian was pleasantly surprised for a moment before his emotions quickly calmed down. He began to think about his next move. According to his wishes, he should continue to condense the Thunder Source Pearls. However, on the one hand, the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb was here and would not run away. When the time was right or when he was bored, he could come back at any time. He was not in a hurry. Moreover, he had been condensing the Thunder Source pearls here for more than 2 months. He was indeed a little bored. Therefore, Yi Xian was not particularly inclined to continue to waste time here. He continued to condense the Thunder Source pearls. On the other hand, he was still worried about the safety of the elite fleet of the human clan. Although he guessed that they should have escaped, he would not be at ease until he received definite information. Moreover, it had been nearly 3 months since the collapse of the Black Mosquito Star. As the Holy Sun, it was inconvenient for him to not appear for too long. Otherwise, in the case that there was no one in the Black Mosquito tribe, a commander, high priest or holy son would appear out of thin air from the demon imperial star to take control of the situation. In that case, if Yi Xian wanted to take on the position of the holy son, or even the position of the great commander and the high priest, he would have to take on the 3 important positions of the tribe. He would have to go around swindling people and openly searching for the devouring origin. Considering all this, it was indeed time for him to leave the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb, wander around and show his face. After making the decision, Yi Xian's figure flashed, and he hurried from the depths of the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb to the periphery. After a short while, just as he arrived at the periphery of the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb, he encountered a Starry Sky fortress that had just rushed into the Thunder Tomb star area. It was the butterfly. Speaking of which, enemies often cross paths. In the past 3 months, the butterfly had only entered the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb 4 times. Previously, it had only entered 3 times. Now it was the 4th time. Each time it would stay in the Thunder Tomb star area for a day, searching a fan-shaped area of 45 degrees around the Thunder Tomb. Originally, this was the last time it entered, and it should have searched the entire periphery of the Thunder Tomb star area. If it did not find the purple warship, the butterfly would leave in a day and return to the Heavenly Legacy tribe. However, at this critical juncture, the 2 parties bumped into each other head-on. And this time it was not only Yi Xian who saw the butterfly, but also Shan Bo and Ning Tai, the 2 high-ranking members of the Heavenly Legacy tribe inside the butterfly, who also saw Yi Xian. Yi Xian was sure of this by intuition, so his face was completely gloomy. Now he had no other choice but to use the power of the Thunder Sea to trap and kill this Starry Sky fortress of the Heavenly Legacy tribe. Chapter 30-32. Lightning Seal Emperor's Might. The 2 sides clashed head-on. Yi Xian was caught off guard and had no time to dodge or hide himself. The moment the opponent's massive star fortress entered his line of sight, Yi Xian knew that he had been exposed. If he had been on a warship at this time, there would have been some leeway to turn the situation around. However, Yi Xian was currently standing in the middle of this Star Thunder Tomb with only his physical body. There was not even a single bolt of green lightning or golden lightning around him. All of them had retreated into the distance in fear. This scene was extremely shocking. After Yi Xian refined the Thunder Emperor seal and condensed 10 Thunder Origin beads, he had a better understanding of the power of the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb. He was already well aware of it. Without a doubt, this scene was extremely shocking to the Tianji race clansmen in the Star Fortress. They could not possibly pretend that they had not seen this and would definitely investigate this matter further. When that time came, the situation would be extremely unfavorable to Yi Xian. Therefore, his killing intent surged in the first instant. If this were any other place, Yi Xian would definitely be thinking of other countermeasures. However, since this was the Star Thunder Tomb and he had refined the Rai Di seal, he had complete control over all the green and golden lightning in this area. In that case, there was a possibility that he could kill the opponent. Yi Xian could not abandon what was close at hand for what was far away. Destroying this star fortress of the Tianji race was the most direct and convenient way to deal with it. Since there was a possibility, why not? Moreover, doing this would also give him a high chance of obtaining a star fortress of the Tianji race. Yi Xian only had 2 large star fortresses and a small star fortress with a diameter of 5,000 meters. Let alone a true star fortress with a diameter of 100,000 meters. He did not even have a small star fortress with a diameter of 50,000 meters, or a star fortress with a diameter of 20,000 meters. If he could obtain this star fortress of the Tianji race, his foundation would instantly soar by countless times. As this thought arose in his mind, Yi Xian's heart began to pound with excitement. His desire to kill had been aroused. At the same time, in the command cabin on the top floor of the interstellar fortress called the Butterfly, the 2 Heaven's Legacy race leaders, Shanbo and Yingtai both widened their eyes. Everything that happened in front of them made them feel as if they were in a dream. A demon cultivator whose cultivation aura was only at the satellite realm, was actually able to walk in this starry sky lightning grave with his physical body. What was even stranger was that he had his hands behind his back, as if he was taking a stroll in his own courtyard. He was walking in an extremely comfortable manner. However, there was not a single bolt of green lightning or golden lightning within 100 meters of his body. It was as if all of them were fearful of him and were retreating far away. Even though they saw it with their own eyes, the two of them still didn't dare to believe it. It was too inconceivable. Why do I feel like there's a formless emperor's might emanating from this brat? It had nothing to do with anything else and only worked on these thunderbolts and lightning. Was this the rhythm that commanded all the thunderbolts in the world? How did he do it? This person has a big secret. Prince Xian, this identity is basically confirmed. No matter how amazing a holy son of a demon tribe is, it's impossible for him to have such a terrifying ability. However, it's not strange for a prince of the human race's eternal dynasty to be able to do this. Ha ha ha. I seem to have smelled the scent of love. A prince of the human race. With such an identity, although his cultivation is a bit weak, he is worthy of me. Uncle Sean, you should change your name in the future. Since I am Yingtai, this name of yours will cause him to misunderstand. Little fella, generally speaking, he likes to be jealous. Shanbo said the first sentence with a blank expression. However, Yingtai, whose eyes lit up after being stunned for a moment, excitedly said several sentences in a row. What he said was so hurtful to Shanbo's self-esteem. In an instant, Shanbo's face fell completely. At this moment, a cold light burst out from his eyes. In his heart, he had already sentenced Yixian to death in advance. So what if his methods were strange? His cultivation was too weak. In Shanbo's opinion, as long as he made a move, he would definitely erase his opponent's existence. Now, he obviously hadn't realized how terrifying the emperor's might that commanded all the thunderbolts in the world represented in this world, where there was only endless thunderbolts and lightning. But he soon experienced it. A fist-sized azure golden seal appeared above Yixian's head. Azure lightning coiled around its entire body as it breathed endlessly. There were also countless golden lightning bolts that expanded and expanded, emitting a green brilliance that enveloped Yixian's figure, causing him to become hazy. At the same time, the formless emperor's might of thunder suddenly burst out and was rendered to the extreme. Rumble. Crack. Crack. As the Rai-D seal was activated and its power was fully activated by Yixian, the entire Starry Sky Thunder Tomb began to surge like a riot. Indeed, the entire Starry Sky Thunder Tomb was extremely vast, almost like a corner of a vast galaxy. Even a warship would need a certain amount of time to cross it. But this emperor's might of thunder ignored distance. When it spread out, even the green lightning and golden lightning from extremely far away instantly sensed this powerful emperor's might and responded. At this moment, the entire Starry Sky Thunder Tomb seemed to come to life. Countless bolts of green lightning surged and countless bolts of golden lightning surged, turning this entire vast area into a cage of thunder and lightning. At the edge of the entire Starry Sky Thunder Tomb, countless bolts of green lightning and golden lightning gathered together, leaving almost no gaps. They formed a vast thunder barrier, preventing any existence from entering and at the same time preventing any existence from leaving. All of this was Yixian's will. If he wanted to kill this Starry Sky Fortress of the Heavens Legacy race, the first thing he had to do was cut off its escape route. At the same time, only he could do all of this. Moreover, if not for the power of the Rai-D seal, Yixian would not have been able to accomplish this either. At the same time that the lightning barrier was formed, a thought suddenly flashed through Yixian's mind. Could he also brand an interstellar coordinate here? After all, in this place he was a supreme emperor. If he encountered a powerful enemy in the future, he could clearly bring them to this place and use the geographical advantage to kill them. Unfortunately, he wasn't sure if the system's interstellar coordinate jumping ability could bring other experts besides Yixian to jump as well. Thus, this idea could only flash through his mind and was quickly tossed to the back of Yixian's mind. He would go back and verify it before making a decision. Soon after, a thunder origin bead slowly emerged from the Rai-D seal above Yixian's head. This time, Yixian planned to test out the Thunder Origin Bead's power. Chapter 30-33. Source Pearl Mystic Light Rumble. Kacha. Kacha. Following the formation of the lightning barrier at the edge of the space lightning tomb, a large amount of green lightning and golden lightning began to bombard the interior of the lightning barrier, engulfing the Butterfly Starry Sky Fortress in an overwhelming manner. Although the Butterfly Starry Sky Fortress was attacked by this kind of lightning when it entered the space lightning tomb before, the situation before was completely different from now. This was clearly a kind of extreme bombardment under human control. The power of the lightning bolts increased exponentially, to the point that they surpassed the speed at which the death ray generator inside the Butterfly Starry Sky Fortress could produce black death rays. The layer of black death ray shield outside the Butterfly Starry Sky Fortress was rapidly weakening. This was no longer a problem of energy consumption, but a problem that they could not resist at all. Soon, when the black death ray shield was completely neutralized, the hull of the Butterfly Starry Sky Fortress would directly face the terrifying power of the green lightning and golden lightning. In the end, the ship would be destroyed and the people on board would perish in the blink of an eye. The situation had become so serious that it was a matter of life and death. Whether it was Shanbo or Ing Tai, both of them were shocked and panicked. Right now, the entire space lightning tomb had become a cage. There was no way to escape. Once they rushed to the lightning barrier at the edge of the lightning tomb, the hull of the Starry Sky Fortress would probably explode. The lightning bolts there were so densely packed together that there was almost no gap between them. They had completely formed a real barrier. However, inside this cage, the power of the green lightning and golden lightning bolts had also increased. If this continued, once the death ray shield of the Butterfly Starry Sky Fortress was completely suppressed, they would have no choice but to directly expose themselves to the lightning tomb like the other party. Although the two of them were supreme mystic light realm cultivators, and even if their bodies were exposed to this lightning environment for a short period of time, they would definitely not be able to do so for long. However, there was no way to escape. In the end, only death awaited them. Thinking of this, Shanbo's expression changed drastically. A trace of regret appeared on his face. He muttered to himself, "Damn it! How could I be so careless and be trapped in such an environment?" Even though the opponent's cultivation is so weak, he is almost invincible in this thunder graveyard. All the thunderbolts listen to his orders. This is the rhythm of borrowing the power of heaven and earth to crush us. It is too sullen. If he didn't have this ability, a mere satellite state cultivator like him wouldn't even be considered an ant in front of us. At this point, Shanbo seemed to have suddenly thought of something. His eyes flashed and his face flushed red. This was a sign that he had entered a state of excitement. His gaze was locked onto the Rai-D seal floating above Yixian's head. The reason this kid is able to reign supreme in this starry sky lightning graveyard and command the lightning of the world is obviously related to the green gold seal above his head. That's definitely an origin source treasure. Moreover, it's a lightning-attributed origin source treasure. Once I seize that treasure, this starry sky lightning tomb will obey my orders from now on. I can kill that kid with a single thought. He's not even comparable to an ant. There is no turning back. Either I die here or I seize his thunder source treasure. Ing Tai, you stay in the fortress. I will be back soon. He is just a satellite state ant. So what if he can make use of the endless thunderbolts in this thunder graveyard? The height of his cultivation base is ultimately a shortcoming. Once I make a move, seizing a thunder source treasure is just a piece of cake. The more Shanbo spoke, the more he felt that this was the truth. The most important thing was that he had no other choice but to do this now. Therefore, even though he was nervous, he could only say these words to encourage himself. As he finished speaking, he took a step forward and disappeared from the control cabin on the top floor of the Butterfly Starry Sky Fortress. He appeared outside the ship, surrounded by a mysterious brilliance, and quickly shot toward the place where the thunderbolts had gathered. Ing Tai, who had stayed in the Butterfly Star Fortress, was stunned at first, but then his eyes lit up. He slowly shook his head and sighed. This is good. Anyway, there won't be any sparks between us. Since the new Shanbo has appeared, the best ending for the old one is naturally to die. You are courting death. You can't blame me. Besides, if you can die in the hands of the new Shanbo, then it will give Ing Tai a legitimate reason to go and find him. This matter will be discussed in the meeting between the upper echelons of the human race and the Tianji clan. Ingtai will have the right to reason. You killed my Shanbo. Since you can't pay for it, then you naturally have to be my new Shanbo. Ha ha ha. In that case, if the old Shanbo wants to die, then Ingtai will think that Yu Cheng is the one. His words did make some sense, but the ruthlessness in his words sent chills down Ingtai's spine. This wasn't Ingtai, who wanted to turn into a butterfly with Shanbo. This was clearly a poisonous female scorpion that wanted to devour her husband. At the same time, outside the Butterfly Star Fortress, as a supreme existence in the mystic light realm, Shanbo did have the terrifying ability to stay in this kind of terrifying environment for a short period of time. The fact that he could do this without using the power of the Rai-D seal was enough to show the terrifying strength of a supreme existence in the mystic light realm. At this moment, Uncle Shan's body was surrounded by a mysterious profound light that was filled with a profound aura. His body transformed into an extremely fast-flowing arrow as he quickly shot towards Yixian. In the blink of an eye, he traversed more than half a distance. At this speed, he'd probably be able to arrive in front of Yixian in a few breaths of time. Once he got close, Yixian would not be able to protect the Rai-D seal with his insignificant fourth-order satellite cultivation. Realizing this, Yixian's eyelids twitched violently. With a great sense of danger approaching, he did not hesitate and immediately sent an attack command to the Rai-D seal hanging above his head. And it was extremely clear. He directly used a Thunder Origin Orb. Whoosh! Rumble! A weak yet sharp sound of something breaking through the air suddenly rang out. The Thunder Origin bead, which had been spat out by the Thunder Emperor seal, and was revolving around the seal, instantly turned into a tiny golden light that was almost undetectable. It shot towards Shanbo, who was pouncing towards him at high speed. Along the way, there was clearly the sound of thunder surging. After all, it was the Thunder Origin Orb, which represented the origin power of thunder. Once it was activated, thunder would rumble endlessly. This could not be more normal. Boom! In the blink of an eye, this undetectable golden light collided with Shanbo. The latter was in this kind of environment where golden lightning was raging everywhere, and it was impossible to see through it, so he did not dodge at all. Chapter 30-34. Harvest. The Mystic Light Realm was the 11th realm in the universe. The so-called Mystic Light Realm was the protective mystic light that Shanbo used to protect his body. It was said that this mystic light had something to do with the laws of the universe. The 10th realm was the Grotto Heaven realm. After reaching the peak of the Grotto Heaven realm and successfully forming a faint strand of mystic light, they could be considered to have broken through to the first level of the Mystic Light realm. In the entire Mystic Light realm, the only thing a cultivator could do was to continuously strengthen the strand of mystic light that they formed. After reaching a certain point, the quantity would cause the quality to change, and they would be able to break through and enter the next realm. From this perspective, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that this strand of Mystic Light realm was the life of a Mystic Light realm cultivator. When the mystic light was formed, life would exist. When the mystic light collapsed, everything would disappear. Even if they didn't die, they would return to their original form. In this kind of environment filled with endless lightning, the mystic light would collapse and return to its original form. The only result of falling back to the Grotto Heaven realm was death. Boom! There was an explosion, an extremely monotonous explosion. There was no continuous sound, no echo and no ripples. It was just a monotonous explosion. The power of this explosion shook the entire boundless starry sky lightning tomb, and it seemed like the space of this star region was about to collapse. As the explosion sounded, a scorching golden light spread out like a tide. The intensity of this light was so intense that even Yixian, who was like an emperor in this starry sky lightning tomb, couldn't look straight at it. He subconsciously squinted his eyes and tilted his head. When he turned around again, the golden tide that had spread out had completely dispersed. It fused back into the stellar lightning tomb, turning into endless green lightning and golden lightning. It was the origin energy that constantly gave birth to life. As for the Heaven's Legacy race upper echelon, whose aura clearly surpassed the Grotto Heaven realm, his figure had completely disappeared. Not a single strand of hair was left behind. Such power instantly stunned Yixian. Although he didn't know that the Mystic Light realm was after the Grotto Heaven realm, just from the terrifying aura he felt from Shanbo, He was sure that the other party was definitely an existence that surpassed the Grotto Heaven realm. That was the cultivation base of the 11th major realm. However, this Thunder Origin bead had actually wiped them out in an instant, leaving not even a single strand of hair behind. Back then, the Weeping Soul Bloodhorn had only been able to crush the 9-star Ladybird Empress of the Grotto Heaven realm. But now, the Thunder Origin bead was able to instantly obliterate even the supreme existence of the 11th stage, who had surpassed the Grotto Heaven realm. Even if it was a one-time use consumable, it was still a precious treasure. More importantly, if Yi Xian wanted to summon the Weeping Soul Bloodhorn, he would have to privately discuss with the headless infant corpse in advance. However, he had absolute control over the remaining 9 Thunder Origin pearls in his possession. He could blow up whoever he wanted, blow up however he wanted, and do as he pleased. Wouldn't that be great? Furthermore, he didn't have to worry about the Weeping Soul Bloodhorn exposing some of his secrets. It was a must-have item for traveling and killing people. Just based on this point alone, this trip to the Starry Sky Lightning Graveyard was already a huge gain. Of course, the current crisis was obviously not over yet. Although he had killed a high-ranking member of the Tianji clan, the 100,000-meter-wide Starry Sky Fortress in front of him still existed. If he didn't deal with it, this matter wouldn't be over. With the terrifying power of the Thunder Origin bead just now, Yi Xian didn't doubt that if he threw out another one, the 100,000-meter-wide Starry Sky Fortress in front of him would instantly be blown to pieces. However, he instantly hesitated about this matter. After all, this was a real Starry Sky Fortress. Even when the Wanluo Federation and the Tianji clan broke out in a war, this kind of Starry Sky Fortress was usually stationed at the rear as a strategic deterrent weapon. The ones that were actually used to fight on the battlefield were usually those so-called small Starry Sky Fortresses that were 50,000 meters wide. In the history of the Wanluo Federation, it seemed that they had never seized a Starry Sky Fortress of the Tianji clan. Similarly, the Tianji clan had never seized one from this side. If this bright silver Starry Sky Fortress in front of him could fall into his hands, not to mention its importance, just the tangible benefits would be incredible. If he didn't have the Devouring system, if he didn't have the fragment of the immortal rank Starry Sky Superbrain, Yi Xian wouldn't have the ability to refine this Starry Sky Fortress's AI system. If that was the case, he wouldn't have this kind of unrealistic dream. However, Yi Xian clearly had all of this. In other words, as long as he did it properly, he definitely had the opportunity to refine this Starry Sky Fortress and keep it in his undying world. Since that was the case, it was completely understandable that Yi Xian would have such a thought at this moment. Because although this idea was shocking, it clearly wasn't a dream. However, there was still a certain level of difficulty. If he wanted to refine it, Yi Xian would have to come into close contact with it. This was extremely dangerous. Just now, any random Tianji clan expert that appeared from this Starry Sky Fortress was a supreme existence that surpassed the Grotto Heaven realm. What if there were a few more such existences inside? Even if there were only a few Grotto Heaven realm existences, it would still be extremely dangerous for him. At this moment, he still didn't know that there was only one true Tianji clan member left in this Starry Sky Fortress. Although there were quite a few semi-intelligent androids and AI androids, none of them had developed their own consciousness and couldn't be considered true members of the Tianji clan. Once the AI system of this Starry Sky Fortress was refined, they would all switch sides and become androids loyal to Yi Xian. Just as Yi Xian was deep in thought, thinking quickly about how to find out exactly how many Tianji clan members were left in this Starry Sky Fortress. Then, he would think of a way to force them all out, which would make it easier for him to refine this Starry Sky Fortress. Suddenly, a mysterious light flashed in the sky above the lightning graveyard, and the figure of a woman quietly appeared. This woman was naturally the last member of the Tianji clan in this Starry Sky Fortress of the Butterflies, the high-ranking member of the Tianji clan who called herself Ying Tai. In other words, after her appearance, there was no longer a single Tianji clan member in the Starry Sky Fortress behind her. There were only a few semi-intelligent androids and AI androids left. However, Yi Xian didn't know this yet. Otherwise, he would have taken action immediately. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. However, at this moment, another powerful member of the Tianji clan suddenly appeared in the sky above the lightning graveyard, and the aura she exuded was no weaker than that of the previous one. Yi Xian suddenly felt a sense of alarm, and for a moment he really forgot about his plan to refine this Starry Sky Fortress. With a thought, he activated the Rai-D seal hanging above his head and spat out a thunder source bead the size of a pigeon's egg. Chapter 30-35. Refined Fortress Kakik. You little sweetheart, you're really heartless. Could it be that you want to kill me like that guy? Killing your wife at the drop of a hat. Are you human royalty also heartless? Following the death of Shan Bo, Ying Tai had automatically treated Yi Xian, who had killed Shan Bo, as the person she felt the love of a human being. After all, this was what he owed her. Therefore, when her words came out of her mouth, it was incomparably natural. Even Yi Xian couldn't help but be stunned. The other party had said that he was a member of the human royal family. It was obvious that he had mistaken Yi Futian for Prince Xian. Furthermore, she claimed to be Prince Xian's wife. Could it be that this person was not from the Tianji clan, but a human? This was not impossible. For example, the demon imperial family had generations of imperial uncles held hostage in the Heaven's Legacy race. It was also possible that the wife of a prince of an eternal dynasty had fallen into the hands of the Heaven's Legacy race. It wasn't that he was stupid. The key was that the Tianji race's androids were no different from humans in terms of appearance. Demon folk could be distinguished by their mental energy, and once they used their mental energy, they would be able to determine that they were not human. However, the Tianji race did not have this feature. In addition, Ying Tai's cultivation was who knew how many times stronger than Yi Xian's, so it was even more impossible for him to probe. However, Ying Tai had said it so naturally, so calmly, so it wasn't completely incomprehensible for Yi Xian to have such suspicions. Since that was the case, it really wasn't appropriate to kill him. At the very least, it was not appropriate to do so before confirming that this person was a member of the Celestial Legacy race. Of course, it wasn't that Yi Xian didn't have any suspicions in his heart. This beautiful and flirtatious woman's cultivation was simply too high. She was actually the same as the Heavenly Fate clan member from before, possessing a cultivation that surpassed the Heavenly Passage realm. That Prince Xian's cultivation was only at this level, so how could his wife be so powerful? However, this was not completely impossible. After all, the other party was a prince, and it was very likely that she was a proud daughter of some family. Because of his status as a prince, she was willing to lower herself to marry him. Thinking of this, Yi Xian really didn't dare to be sure. After thinking for a while, he probed. Since you are Prince Xian's first wife and a hostage in the hands of the Tianji clan, why did they let you out? You're obviously lying to me. As he spoke, Yi Xian raised his hand and pointed at the butterfly starry sky fortress behind Ying Tai, his meaning obvious. Hearing Yi Xian's words, Ying Tai's eyes lit up. He was stunned for a moment, then he was secretly delighted. She naturally understood the meaning behind Yi Xian's words. After all this fuss, this Prince Xian actually mistook her for a human. Furthermore, he most likely really did have such a wife in the human race. She guessed that they hadn't married yet, and the two of them had never even met. Prince Xian had been tossing and turning in the first universe all this time. She had only said that just now, but he actually mistook her for that human's future wife that he had never met. That's fine too. If he mistook her for a human and even his future wife, then she would be able to enjoy this human love even better. That's right, she also had to immerse herself in it. It would be best if even she mistook herself for a human, for Prince Xian's wife. Only then would she not reveal any flaws and be able to fully immerse herself in it. Only then would she be able to find the feeling as soon as possible. Was the love between Ying Tai and Shan Bo about to reappear on her body? Just thinking about it made her excited. As for his probing words today, it was really too simple. One sentence could resolve it. Thinking of this, Ying Tai immediately made a decision. As a supreme expert of the mystic light realm, hypnotizing herself a little wouldn't be a problem at all. She immediately did so. Of course, it was only a superficial hypnosis and not a deep one. If she wanted to wake up, she could do it with just a thought. But now, as a mystic light realm expert tried to hypnotize himself and told himself that he was a human, the future wife of this Prince Xian who had fallen into the hands of the Heaven's Legacy race, Ying Tai's expression immediately turned sorrowful. Even her eyes were vaguely sparkling with sparkling tears. She choked and said, Shan Bo, although you and I have never met before, we have at least communicated through the star web twice. Didn't you always call me Ying Tai? Could it be that you can't even recognize my voice now? I heard that you were in the first universe and chased after you despite the danger. I didn't expect to be captured by the Tianji race and almost couldn't see you again. You actually still suspect me? Just now, you also used this kind of small golden pearl to kill that Tianji race higher up. Now, another one has come out of the seal. You clearly want to kill me as well. Woo. Shanbo, if you have a lover in the first universe, even if it's a demon person or a robot of the Tianji race, as long as you tell me, I will cover my face and cry. I will return to the human race and become a nun. Why do you have to be so heartless and insist on killing me? As for the baseless suspicions in your words, you're just fooling yourself. Don't you know that the celestial clan's upper echelons generally own a space fortress or a space fortress? Everything else is a robot. You have been in the first universe for so long. How can you not know this? That Heaven's Legacy race clansman was clearly killed by you. Other than me, there are only a few AI mechs in this space fortress. How can they trap me? You are using such a simple and childish reason to fool me. This is clearly too perfunctory. Shanbo, you have a change of heart. Oh. As she spoke, Yingtai seemed to gradually immerse herself in it, and actually started crying. That delicate appearance of a pear flower in the rain, coupled with the pitiful appearance of covering her face and crying, instantly caused Yixian to be dumbfounded. At the same time his scalp went numb. Shanbo? Yingtai? What the F***ck? He really didn't expect that Prince Xian, who was still trapped in the myriad hell at the bottom of the black wind, would be so jealous. The two of them hadn't even met yet, but he was already calling her Shanbo, Yingtai. Now all of this was being blamed on him. What a scam. In addition, after listening to the other party's words, he also came to a realization. Just as this woman who called herself Yingtai said, the upper echelons of the Tianji clan did generally sit on a space fortress by themselves. After all, they were robots. In terms of mechanical intelligence, they had a huge advantage over humans. There was no need for them to have many people. That would be a waste of their race's resources. However, although Yixian believed most of what this woman said, he didn't completely believe it. He immediately had a plan in his mind and prepared for the final test. Chapter 30-36. Fifth rank satellite. In Yixian's opinion, if the other party was from the Heaven's Legacy race, then her acting was clearly just to numb him so that she could take advantage of the situation to ambush him. In order to achieve this goal, it wouldn't be worth it to hand over the entire Starry Sky Fortress. Therefore, refining this Starry Sky Fortress as a method of probing was extremely accurate according to Yixian's deduction and analysis. True gold wasn't afraid of fire, and it wasn't true gold that was afraid of fire. Unfortunately, although he had guessed partially correctly, he had guessed the other party's goal wrong. This was the root of the problem. If even the root of the problem was wrong, then what was the point of following up on this point? It could be said that a single mistake could lead to a complete mistake. Yingtai did this because she wanted to pursue the love between the human Yingtai and Shanbo. Under this premise, she really didn't care about an interstellar fortress. As an upper echelon of the Heaven's Legacy race, as long as she was safe, even if she lost the butterfly transformation, she would be able to obtain a new butterfly transformation after returning to the Heaven's Legacy race. In fact, in her storage space there was a Starry Sky Fortress of the same level that was 100,000 meters long. That was Yingtai's personal fortress. As for this butterfly, it belonged to that damned Uncle Shan. If Yixian wanted to refine it, then to Yingtai she was just being generous. It wouldn't hurt her at all. It was precisely because of this that when Yixian probingly expressed that he wanted to refine this ownerless Starry Sky stronghold and take it for himself, not only did Yingtai not have any abnormal behavior, she even had a face full of pleasant surprise. She involuntarily cried out, "Heavens, you actually have such a method? This is the interstellar fortress of the Mystic Light Realm upper echelon of the Heaven's Legacy race. The superbrain that is its AI is no ordinary superbrain. If you want to refine it, you need an immortal rank superbrain. My dear, you're too surprising. You actually have an immortal rank superbrain." These words were extremely true. Even if Yingtai didn't perform a shallow hypnosis on herself, her performance would still be so perfect. This was because this was exactly what she was feeling right now. They were filled with shock. This was an immortal rank superbrain. As far as she knew, other than the immortal star of the human race's science and technology faction, only the Tianji race's base camp had one. She didn't expect the human race's immortal dynasty to be so well hidden that Prince Xian had a second immortal star superbrain. The value of an immortal rank superbrain was even more valuable than 10 interstellar fortresses. From the looks of it, after he had perfectly experienced the beautiful feeling of Yingtai and Shanbo's love from this Prince Xian, he would be able to fulfill his wish and feel a little sick of it. At that time, he would be able to kill this Prince Xian and gain a great harvest. All of these were Yingtai's thoughts. Naturally, Yi Xian had no way of knowing. What he saw was Yingtai's perfect performance under this test. It was precisely this perfect performance that made Yi Xian sigh inwardly, confirming his identity as a human. Not only was it a human, but it was also the Yingtai of Prince Xian's Shanbo. It was just that for some inexplicable reason all of this had involved him. When he thought of this, Yi Xian felt his entire head swell up and his head hurt like crazy. However, he couldn't be bothered to think about all of this right now. No matter what, an undefended interstellar fortress was right in front of him. He had to deal with this matter first. Picking up an interstellar fortress for free wasn't a good thing that could happen every day. This was probably the first time something like this had happened in the first universe for tens of thousands of years. As he thought of this, Yi Xian left a bit of his consciousness to summon the Rai Di seal to guard against Yingtai's sudden movements. At the same time, he immediately ordered the devouring system in his body to refine the butterfly interstellar fortress. This kind of refinement was actually very simple. To put it bluntly, it was to use the core of Yi Xian's personal interstellar communication system, which was the fragment of the immortal rank interstellar superbrain, to send out a superbrain frequency to connect to the control core of the interstellar fortress. Then, like a hacker, it would attack the interstellar fortress and finally brand the fragment of the immortal rank interstellar superbrain. That would be the end of the refinement. Of course, all of this sounded simple, but the entire process was extremely complicated. Just think of the huge amount of tedious and complicated data that hackers in ancient times had to face just to break through a firewall. Therefore, even with Yi Xian's current fourth-order satellite spiritual sense and mental strength, if he were to personally control this matter, it would be an extremely troublesome matter. The best way to solve this problem was to be a hands-off boss, and let the devouring system take over the control of the intelligent core of the personal interstellar communication system. Ding! Discovered interstellar fortress. Begin refinement immediately according to the host's instructions. Progress 1. Progress 2. As Xing Xian's personal space communication system successfully connected and merged into the main control center of the stronghold that was no longer defended, the familiar notification of the devouring system quickly sounded in Yi Xian's mind. This was clearly the first time he'd started to invade and refine it, and even started to read the progress. This also proved that Yingtai's words were true. If there was a second member of the Tianji race in this interstellar fortress, how could they allow all of this to happen? It should be known that although the interstellar superbrain used as the control core of the interstellar fortress wasn't an immortal rank, it was definitely not an ordinary superbrain. The control core of Yi Xian's personal interstellar communication system was only a fragment of an immortal rank superbrain. Although it was probably going to level up soon after consuming a large amount of multi-pupil thought crystals, it was going to break through the fragment level soon. However, it was still a fragment. If the control core of the interstellar fortress was controlled by a member of the Tianji race, it would be impossible for Yi Xian's personal interstellar communication system to be so easily connected and merged into the interstellar fortress so quickly and easily. When he thought of this, Yi Xian's wariness towards Yingtai immediately lessened. After all, everything that she had done proved that she was a human. Even Yi Xian felt that he couldn't find fault with her anymore. This process of reading the progress didn't last long. After all, the interstellar communication system was already undefended, so the refinement process wasn't stressful at all. After about half an hour, the notification of the devouring system rang in Yi Xian's mind again. Ding! Congratulations to the host for refinement success. Ding! Congratulations to the host for leveling up. Current level: 5th order satellite. Ding! Congratulations to the host for leveling up the superbrain fragment. Current level: infant. Chapter 3037. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. I want to fall in love with you. Ding! Congratulations to the host. Your personal space communication system has been successfully upgraded. Current level of the star brain: Infant. Current level of coverage of the star brain. 1 light-year in diameter. Current level of network communication ability. After connecting, except for connecting and merging with the star brain of the same level, the star brain of the same level can be invaded. Ding! Congratulations to the host. Discovered the star brain's central frequency. Type microLAN. Star brain's level. Normal. Do you want to connect immediately? Ding! Congratulations to the host. Discovered the star brain's central frequency. Type microLAN. Before Yixian could recover from his shock, a series of system notifications sounded out in his mind once again. Obviously, the notifications were because the fragment of his personal space communication system, which was the main control center of his space communication system, had been upgraded, which led to the upgrade of his personal space communication system. After the upgrade, the active search range of Yixian's personal space communication system had increased from 1 light-month to 1 light-year. This was definitely a huge improvement, which would be of great significance to his search for the origin of Devouring in the future. As for the star brain central frequency mentioned by the last 2 notifications, if he was not mistaken, it should be the signal of the star brain central frequency sent out by some of the slave fleets of the first universe that were wandering around this space graveyard. Yixian simply ignored them. At this moment he didn't have the time to pay attention to those small fries. All his attention was focused on the mighty bright silver starry sky fortress in front of him. Although the butterfly fortress belonged to Shan Bo, Ying Tai could be considered half a master. Therefore she had a lot of control over it. Before Ying Tai walked out of the butterfly fortress, she had completely erased all the important and sensitive information, including everything related to herself and the heavenly legacy race. As a mystic light realm upper echelon of the heavens legacy race and half of the master of the butterfly transformation, it was easy for Ying Tai to do all this without leaving any traces. Even the devouring system and Yixian's personal communication system, the immortal-grade superbrain that acted as the central control center of the artificial intelligence, couldn't detect anything. It was precisely because of this that even though Yixian had completely refined this universal fortress and made it his personal property, Yixian had learned nothing about the original designation of this universal fortress or any other important information related to the Heaven's legacy race. The devouring system immediately informed him of this. Although Yixian felt a little regretful, he quickly put this matter to the back of his mind. After all, this refinement had not only given him a starry sky fortress with a diameter of 100,000 meters, but he had also made a breakthrough in his cultivation base. His personal starry sky communication system had also been upgraded. All of this was a huge surprise. Even if it was a little regretful, it was still acceptable. Since he had refined it into his own universal fortress, he naturally had to give it a designation immediately. Otherwise, it would be ridiculous for such a huge fortress to not even have a designation. Yixian immediately fell into deep thought. After a while, an idea flashed through his mind. He remembered that he had obtained this universal fortress in the graveyard of lightning. Since that was the case, what better designation would be better than Thunderbolt? Thunderbolt was domineering and resonated with his ability to command all the lightning in the world. Could not be more perfect. Yixian was so happy that he almost laughed out loud. Ha ha ha. From now on, this universal fortress belongs to me, Yixian. I bestow upon you the name of Thunderbolt. Amidst his laughter, Yixian waved his hand and stored Thunderbolt into his undying world in an instant. Although Yixian did not obtain too much information about the Tianji race from this universal fortress, Yixian completely understood some of its basic situation the moment he refined it. There were 9,999 AI androids with different functions and models in the entire space fortress. They were classified as maintenance androids, service androids, technical androids, and so on. The intelligent systems of all the robots were tied to Thunderbolt's central superbrain. After Yixian refined Thunderbolt's central superbrain and branded it with his personal starry sky communication system, these intelligent robots all regarded him as their master. The effect was even better than a slave imprint. But of course, among these intelligent robots, it was also possible for true self-awareness to be born. From that moment on, they would break away from the category of intelligent robots and become a new member of the machine race. All the members of the machine race were born from this. In the base camp of the machine race, They even had a set of special functional systems that were specially used to induce the robots to develop self-awareness. However, only special types of intelligent robots with great potential and value could receive the benefits of this system. Ordinary maintenance robots and service robots obviously did not have this opportunity. But even with this kind of free-range method, some intelligent robots would occasionally be lucky enough to develop self-awareness and evolve into true members of the machine race. This would require Yi Xian to observe and pay more attention in the future. Otherwise, once one of his mechanical servants was born with self-awareness, this would undoubtedly be equivalent to burying a time bomb. In the end, it wouldn't be a good thing. But all this was not something that needed to be considered now. The birth of true robots was not that simple and casual. After Yi Xian put away Thunderbolt's Starry Sky Fortress, he glanced around and immediately fixed his eyes on Ying Tai. This woman was currently the most troublesome problem for him. First of all, I need to make one thing clear. I am not that Prince Xian. I am just a demon. Therefore you better not follow me. Otherwise, you will fall into the hands of the Tianji race sooner or later. After pondering for a while, Yi Xian tried to persuade Ying Tai to leave. Although this Thunderbolt graveyard is some distance away from the wormhole that leads to the third universe, with your cultivation that has surpassed the Grotto Heaven realm, I believe that before the follow-up forces of the Tianji race arrive, no one will be able to stop you. So hurry up and leave. Otherwise it will be too late. Kakik. You little sweetheart. Although you are still trying to trick me with words, at least you are worried about me. At least I didn't travel hundreds of millions of miles to find this place for nothing. Ying Tai didn't take Yi Xian's persuasion to heart at all. Instead, she laughed once again, and her eyes sparkled with brilliance. My dear, your concern makes me suddenly feel like I've found the sweetness of a butterfly's love. For this reason, I won't mention the part where you changed your heart before. We can start over. I have decided to follow you. If you don't go back, I will stay here with you. Chapter 30-38. Stop and rob. Falling in love? Transforming into a butterfly? Grand and spectacular? As Yi Xian mulled over these words, he suddenly felt his scalp go numb. At this moment, he felt that this woman in front of him was definitely a huge problem. However, she was a human, and it wasn't easy for Yi Xian to kill her. Furthermore, her cultivation was so high. If she was determined to stick to Yi Xian, there was probably no way for him to get rid of her. What the F***ck? How did he end up with such a huge problem? That Prince Xian really wasn't a good person. Why did he have to provoke such an existence for no reason? As Yi Xian muttered to himself, his mind quickly turned. No matter what, he had to get rid of this woman. Otherwise, with her by his side, even if the Tianji clan was made up of a bunch of idiotic robots, they would know that he was related to that so-called Prince Xian. They wouldn't care if this woman mistook him for someone else. She was Prince Xian's fiancée. How could she mistake her future husband for someone else? Although this matter could be explained, the key point was that even if it was explained, people who shouldn't have been paying attention would still be attracted. This wasn't good for Yi Xian. After hearing this woman mention it twice, Yi Xian already knew that the 11th realm after the Heavenly Passage realm was originally called the Mystic Light realm. This woman was a supreme existence in the Mystic Light realm. Under the circumstances where he couldn't attack her, Yi Xian originally had no chance of getting rid of her. However, that was in the past. As for now, Yi Xian's system title had been upgraded to the 3rd level of the Interstellar Explorer. He had the ability to jump through interstellar coordinates. To him, getting rid of a supreme existence in the Mystic Light realm wasn't difficult at all, even if it was a supreme existence in the Mystic Light realm. Thinking of this, Yi Xian's gloominess immediately dissipated. He had just obtained this ability and was planning to test it out. I'll say the same thing again. I'm not Prince Xian. You've got the wrong person. So don't follow me. You won't be able to keep up. If you don't believe me, I'll walk out of the Lightning Tomb right now. I don't want you to think that I used the Lightning Tomb's geographical advantage to shake you off. In order to make the other party give up, Yi Xian put in a lot of effort. As he spoke, he turned his head and glanced at Ying Tai. Then he took a step forward. With just one step, he was already out of the Thunder Grave. His figure appeared in the void of the universe outside the Perilous Land. At the same time that he walked out, the lightning barrier at the edge of the Thunder Tomb had already been removed by Yi Xian with a thought. Therefore, Ying Tai also stepped forward. She tilted her head slightly and looked at Yi Xian with a provocative expression. She seemed to be saying, "Fine, can't you get rid of me? Let's see how you do it." He appeared to be extremely confident. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was clearly more confident than her. "I've said it before. Getting rid of you is as easy as pie." Sensing the provocation in the other party's eyes, Yi Xian's competitive spirit was also aroused. It was not a pleasant feeling to be looked down upon by a woman. At least he did not like it. This kind of self-righteous woman should be given a hard slap in the face. She would naturally know what was good for her after being slapped in the face. Thinking of this, Yi Xian grinned and immediately ordered the Devouring system to start the interstellar coordinate jump immediately. The next moment, the familiar sound of the system's notification rang in Yi Xian's mind. Ding! System confirmed. Interstellar coordinate jump ready. Countdown begins. 3, 2, 1. Ding! Congratulations to the host. The jump has started. Whoosh! A weak sound broke through the air. From above Yi Xian's head, a small crack suddenly appeared in the void. An aura that was exactly the same as Yi Xian's own blood essence poured out. It instantly pulled his body and turned into a weak light that disappeared into the crack. Then, without waiting for Yingtai to come back to her senses, the crack in the void instantly closed again. Everything returned to normal. Even with her supreme cultivation, she could not catch the slightest trace of it. In the blink of an eye, Yi Xian's figure had completely disappeared. All of this was obviously beyond Yingtai's expectations. Her confident face finally changed at this moment. She cried out involuntarily. "It has nothing to do with the lightning tomb. It's not teleportation. And it's not teleportation. What kind of method is this? How did he do it? Why do I have the illusion that he has gone to the other side of the universe in an instant? Traversing across the universe plane? How is this possible? The ultimate prince of the human race's eternal dynasty is indeed not simple. However, if you want to get rid of me like this, you are too naive. I'm afraid you haven't completely understood what the difference between the mystic light realm and the satellite realm means." At the end of her sentence, the shock on Yingtai's face slowly disappeared. It was replaced by a calm expression that became more and more interested. Her figure flashed, and she quickly rushed in a direction. It should be this direction. It was not easy to find a feeling. You can't run away from my love of the butterfly. Whoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Yi Xian's figure fell from a crack in the void. The surroundings were dark. This void was where he had imprinted the first interstellar coordinate. In other words, he had already arrived at the black hole of life. The crack in the void above his head instantly closed again. Even if Yi Xian used his heart to investigate, he could not find any aura related to his blood essence or soul. It was indeed perfect. That show-off woman who called herself Yingtai was probably at a loss at this moment. Yi Xian grinned and immediately rushed toward the exit of the black hole of life. After all, the other party was a supreme existence at the mystic light realm. Yi Xian was not sure if she would be able to find any clues to determine the general direction of his jump. Therefore, Yi Xian had to leave this place as soon as possible to prevent the other party from catching up and exposing the escape coordinates he had left as a trump card. After all, the distance between the black hole of life and the star lightning tomb was not too far, especially for a supreme existence at the mystic light realm. Along the way, some of the void soldiers and generals sensed Yi Xian's aura and excitedly surrounded him. Yi Xian stopped for a moment and played with them for a while. However, he did not dare to waste any more time and quickly left the black hole of life. He changed direction and quickly flew away. At the same time, the gears in his mind turned quickly as he thought about his next move. According to his previous plan, the main planet of the Black Mosquito tribe had collapsed, and Huegu Lu and Zuofengtai had been hidden by him. This situation was perfect for Yi Xian to wander around and find the source of devouring energy and the energy needed for the Wild Dragon battleship. However, just wandering around alone was not enough. He had to have a space fortress at the very least. Otherwise, it would be too shabby. Although the Wild Dragon battleship in his hands could be seen, it was too broken. The Black Mosquito battleship and the Black Wind battleship could not be seen, let alone the Thunderbolt battleship. Chapter 30-39. Bloodshed. Stop right there. Robbery. Yixian was inexplicably excited at the thought of those domineering words. Back in the Weeping Soul Cave under the Black Mountain Star, Yixian had robbed the demonic experts of their spatial pagodas and stole their soul-eating beasts. He had almost gotten addicted to robbing. Who would have thought that he would be able to do it again today? It was inexplicably exciting. It was worth mentioning that the warships and space fortresses of the slave races in the first universe were basically all from the Tianji clan. Therefore, they were the same as the Black Mosquito, Black Wind, and other Demon Scout fortresses. The only difference was that some of the space fortresses had some emblems on their outer walls. Obviously, this type of space fortress was not suitable for robbery. Otherwise, if one were to recklessly send it out to swindle others, they would inadvertently offend the entire slave race. Although Yixian did not care about this, it was not good to rob his own brother's race. However, some space fortresses did not have any emblems on their outer walls. These fortresses looked exactly the same. This type of space fortress could be considered a robbery target. In any case, after robbing it, all they had to do was switch the operators with their own demon slaves. No one would be able to tell anything. As for the matter of the Black Mosquito tribe not having a space fortress in Yixian, as the holy son of the tribe, suddenly obtaining one, when the time came they could just find an excuse to cover it up. Now that the Black Mosquito Star Zone was in chaos, the human elite fleet had just wreaked havoc here and destroyed some of the slave race's warships and space fortresses. When the time came, they could just say that they had accidentally found an ownerless space fortress in the void. The people inside were gone. They had probably escaped. After all, it was an ownerless space fortress. Why couldn't they just pick it up? As long as the slave clan that originally owned this fortress did not notice anything wrong, who would care too much about this matter without the victim's family? As for the success rate of the robbery, that was even less of a problem. In the first universe, the overlords of the Tianji clan were natural mechanical manipulators. They only needed one official clansman to control a huge space fortress. This was something that not even the most powerful scientists of the human race could do. But that was it. Among the other slave races, almost none of them could compare to the human race in terms of warship control or technology. Even the demon race didn't care much about technology. Not to mention the half-developed races such as the Oxhead and Horseface races. Meanwhile, the AI core of Yixian's personal space communication system, which was the fragment of the immortal rank space superbrain, had grown to its infancy stage. It was much stronger than before. Under these circumstances, Yixian didn't even need to enter the space fortress that was listed as the target of the robbery. He was able to successfully refine the intelligence center of the target through his personal space communication system. At that time, he could completely control the target fortress remotely and temporarily imprison all the existences inside. Then, he could bring people in and take over the sparrow nest. He'd carefully calculated all of this in his mind, and he'd long since come up with a plan. He could be said to be full of confidence. After concealing his figure and presence, Yixian wandered around the void. He didn't dare to approach the Black Mosquito Star Zone. Instead, he searched for targets at the edge of the Demon Star Zone. Although the Black Mosquito Star Zone had the most fleets of the slave races in the first universe, because they were too close together, it was inconvenient to take action. After all, it was a robbery. It was better to look for dark alleys in remote areas. These areas also had fleets of the slave races, but there were fewer of them. But because of this, it was more suitable for Yixian to take action. Soon a fleet entered his sight. This fleet wasn't huge. It only had 2 stellar state ships and a huge fortress with a diameter of 10,000 meters. The huge fortress looked exactly the same as the Black Mosquito ship and the Black Wind ship. Even the huge fortress in Demon Guard 1 Star Dock looked exactly the same. This huge fortress was obviously a standard one issued by the Tianji clan in the first universe. Most importantly, it didn't have any insignia on it. Even if someone stole it, no one would know its origin. That's it. Yixian followed it from afar. After reaching a certain distance, he issued an order to the Devouring system to activate his personal space communication system. He connected to and invaded the internal network of the huge fortress in front of him and refined it immediately. He imprinted the aura of the infant immortal rank superbrain and obtained full control of it. The system quickly responded and continued to act according to Yixian's instructions. Everything was done silently. The biological frequency of the superbrain was invisible. Apart from other superbrains of the same species, no one, no matter how powerful their cultivation was, would be able to detect this frequency fluctuation out of thin air. Otherwise, in the context of space, where experts were as numerous as carps crossing the river, the superbrain wouldn't be suitable to be the star web's main control center for the three universes. The entire process was silent and extremely fast. In less than half an hour, Yixian received the system's feedback that everything was done. The entire huge fortress had been refined and became Yixian's personal property. If he wanted to, he could take it into the undying world in his body with a wave of his hand. However, he didn't do that. Instead, he used the Devouring system as a relay and directly issued an order to the huge fortress to destroy the two 3,000-meter-long stellar-level battleships that were protecting it. They were in cahoots. If they didn't destroy the two stellar-level battleships after taking over the huge fortress, news of this matter would definitely spread. Soon, the superstar destroyer cannon on the huge fortress was activated. Huge energy light beams blasted out from both sides. Due to the close distance, the two stellar-level battleships instantly turned into two huge fireballs. Not only were the existences in the two stellar-level battleships unable to recover from this sudden change of events, but even the experts from the slave race in the huge fortress were probably dumbfounded. Immediately withdraw the authority to activate all space portals and imprison all the enemies in a fixed area. Wait for our own people to pass through before opening the portals and starting the cleanup. After the destruction of the two stellar-level battleships, Yixian immediately issued a new order. Then, with a wave of his hand, the Dongshu shuttle in his undying world was activated. A large number of experts walked out from it and rushed into the huge fortress that had already opened up the main passage. Huegu Lu Zuofeng Tai Wang Biao, 1,000 ferocious mosquitoes, and 1,000 powerful soldier ladles. In fact, just the first three Origin Realm Supreme existences were enough to crush the experts from the slave race in the huge fortress. Yixian didn't even need to use the forces in the Black Mosquito and Black Wind. Chapter 30-40. Translator. Exodus Tales Editor. Exodus Tales Evil Spirit Slime. The interior of this fortress was the same as the Black Mosquito ship. It was divided into 4 levels, and the interior was also constructed using space folding technology. The only difference was that instead of the 10,000 cataclysmic prison, the lower level was a giant insect nest. Space folding technology had been perfected by the Tianji clan of the first universe for many years. Therefore, even the space fortress, which was assigned to the slave races of the first universe, used this advanced technology. In the immortal dynasties of the human race, only the warships of the military could use this technology. This fortress was originally called the Evil Spirit, but Yixian did not like this name, so with a wave of his hand, he changed it to the Holy Sun. In the future, he would mainly use the identity of the Black Mosquito tribe's Holy Sun to drive this space fortress around and swindle people. The name of the Holy Sun was the most suitable. At this moment, in the center of the spacious plaza on the second level of the Holy Sun, there was a large pile of dark green corpses. It was like a mountain, and at a glance there were at least 10,000 corpses. What surprised Yixian was that these corpses were not demonkin, nor were they humanoid life forms. They were actually insects. Their bodies were about the same size as humans, but they were soft-bodied insects that looked like caterpillars. They were dark green all over and had demon-like faces. They looked extremely ferocious. These insect life forms had a very strange name. They were called Evil Spirit Slime. Perhaps it was because their appearance was too ugly, and the surface of their bodies secreted a kind of greenish-black poisonous liquid. Even among the 100 slave races of the Tianji race in the first universe, this kind of evil spirit slime was extremely disliked. As for their masters, the Tianji clan, they obviously disliked them even more. This was perhaps the reason why this fleet of evil spirit slime was so lonely, wandering the edge of the Demonkin Star region without any companions. Now, all of the evil spirit slimes inside the Saint Child had been wiped out, turning into over 10,000 corpses that were piled up in a pile. In fact, there was no lack of experts among them. It was said that the strongest existences were 2 black hole stage 9 evil spirit slimes. However, in the face of the powerful army that Yixian had sent out, they were still easily annihilated. However, there was a nest in the saint's hold. It looked like a beehive and was packed with slime eggs. What a strange race. They built their nest on a bastion ship. According to Yixian's estimation, There were at least tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of evil spirit slime eggs in the lower cabin. Each of them was only the size of a human head. They were all packed together and had yet to hatch. If someone with trypophobia entered the lower cabin and saw this scene, they would probably go crazy on the spot. Just as Yixian was about to give the order to burn all the slime eggs in the hold, the notification from the devouring system suddenly rang in his mind. This time, the contents of the notification completely stunned Yixian. The surprise came so quickly that he could not believe it. Ding! Congratulations to the host. Discovered Crystal of the Fairies. Crystal of the Fairies, the crystallization of the power of the evil spirit slime. It is a natural life energy that can be absorbed by the world's insects. Do you want to collect it immediately? Crystal of the Fairies? The crystallization of the power of the evil spirit slime? How could the crystal of such an ugly soft-bodied reptile have the nerve to use such a grand name like the Crystal of the Fairies? This was the first thought that flashed through Yixian's mind. Although it was a little unbelievable, he quickly threw it to the back of his mind. None of this was important. The most important thing was that this unexpected success had finally led to the discovery of the energy source that could allow the world's insects to continue to reproduce and evolve. From the looks of it, the hundreds of millions of evil spirit slime eggs in the hold of the Holy Sun absolutely could not be burned. There were only about 10,000 evil spirit slime corpses in front of him, so there was a limit to the amount of Crystal of the Fairies that could be harvested. With the gigantic insect nest in the hold of the Holy Sun, Yixian would be able to obtain an endless supply of Crystal of the Fairies as more and more evil spirit slime hatched in the future. In this way, as the world's insects continued to grow, the evolution and growth of the Long Yixian Fortress would also slowly enter the fast lane. When the Long Yixian Fortress grew into an interstellar fortress with a diameter of 100,000 meters, Yixian would be able to drive it around the 3 dimensions of the universe. A life fortress that could rapidly repair itself at any time, anywhere, was simply too weak compared to an interstellar fortress of the same level. With this kind of excitement, Yixian immediately gave the order to collect the crystal of the evil spirit slime corpses. This scene was indeed too bloody, so he couldn't bear to watch it. He turned around and walked into a passage in the plaza. Half an hour later, 10,000 Crystal of the Fairies were gathered together and handed to Yixian. The Crystal of the Fairies were only a type of small red crystal. Moreover, they were extremely small, sparkling and translucent. They looked about the same as a pomegranate, and the largest one was slightly smaller than a pinky nail. 10,000 Crystal of the Fairies were only a small bag, so it was not very eye-catching. Yixian didn't bother to look at them in detail. Apart from keeping 10 of the largest Crystal of the Fairies as samples, he put them in a small box and threw them into his undying world. The rest of the fairies were all tossed to the devouring system, allowing it to transfer them to the Long Yixian Fortress for the world's insects to absorb. He believed that not long after, the world's insects would be able to revive and evolve once again. As for the pile of evil spirit slime corpses, Yixian didn't let them go to waste. He immediately took out his Devil Bloodstar Tears sword. After 5 fusions, not only did the Devil Bloodstar Tears sword reach the epic grade of Starry Sky, it even gave birth to a Devil Bloodsword spirit. This kind of flesh energy was a great supplement for the Devil Bloodsword spirit. The moment it was taken out, Yixian heard the Devil Bloodsword spirit's cheerful buzzing sound coming from the Devil Bloodstar Tears sword. Following that, the Devil Bloodstar Tears sword was controlled by the Devil Bloodstar Tears sword. It turned into a ray of blood light and plunged into the small mountain of evil spirit slime corpses. The entire mountain of corpses withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. The Devil Bloodstar Tears sword had absorbed such a large amount of flesh energy several times now. According to Yixian's estimation, if there were no accidents, the Devil Bloodstar Tears sword was not far away from leveling up. Now it was already at the Starry Sky epic grade. If it went one step further, it would be at the Starry Sky Supreme Treasure grade. Owning a Starry Sky Supreme Treasure grade combat weapon was absolutely the dream of any expert. But because of this, it would take a long time to reach the Starry Sky Supreme Treasure grade. After all, it wasn't easy to reach the Starry Sky Supreme Treasure grade. Chapter 3041. Various concurrent positions. The entire Demonkin Star region, especially the Black Mosquito Star region where the Black Mosquito tribe was located, did not return to normal after the departure of the elite human fleet from Naples. After all, the large and small fleets of the 100 servant races from the first universe had not gathered here because of the arrival of the human race's fleet. Their purpose was to search for and capture Prince Xian of the human race's everlasting dynasty. As long as Prince Xian was not caught, they could not leave so casually, even if it was to curry favor with the celestial legacy race or to do it half-heartedly. Yi Xian had been in the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb for a period of time. During this period of time, everything that had happened in the Black Mosquito star field had already spread throughout the entire first universe. The complete destruction of the Black Mosquito tribe's main star, the unexpected fall of the demon race's imperial city's first high priest, Wen Xing, and the huge loss of the servant fleet. This news was extremely shocking to the hundreds of slave races in the first universe. The Devil Imperial planet was especially shaken. It was said that after the news that Chief Priest Wen Xing was blown into pieces by the flagship of the human elite fleet was sent back, the furious roar of Devil Emperor Mo Wentian was heard from the depths of the Devil Imperial city. Wen Xing was the favorite of the Devil Emperor, a supreme existence of the heavenly passage realm. How could Mo Wentian not be angry when he died in such a sullen manner? However, if he were to find out that Wen Xing was hiding another secret identity as a human spy under the high priest of the Imperial city, what would the Demon Emperor think? Yi Xian didn't care about any of this. He was already rushing towards the Black Mosquito domain from the edge of the Demon domain with the Saint. Along the way, Yi Xian found a hidden void and took out the two space fortresses, the Black Wind and the Black Mosquito, from the undying world within his body. This included the Dongshu shuttle. The reason for this was naturally to free up manpower to enter the Saint. With his current status, not only had he become the Black Mosquito tribe's holy son, but because Wufengtai and Huigulei had already been shelved by him, Yi Xian had already privately put on the two high hats of temporary Great Commander and temporary High Priest on his head. In short, in the entire Black Mosquito tribe, he was the one with the highest authority. Under such circumstances, the Holy Sun would basically be his personal fortress in the future, and there was no possibility of him handing it over to the tribe. Since that was the case, he naturally needed to keep some forces in the fortress. However, including the 1,000-man battalion led by Gue Hai Dao in the Dongshu shuttle, and the other 5,000-man battalions led by Cong Qingyu and the others, he did not dare to move a single one of the 6,000 scouts. He continued with his original arrangements. After all, these guys were all from the Demon Scout Corps, so they couldn't be exposed. The appearance of a wretched mosquito slayer in the Demonkin star system was already quite risky. If more came out, something bad would definitely happen. The higher-ups of the demon slaves like Nabashan, Ba Chai, and Li Mosquito couldn't show themselves either. Other than that, he even sent Wufengtai and Huigulei into the Dongshu shuttle so that they could stay with Gue Hai Dao's army of 1,000 slaves and guide them so that they could improve their cultivation and grow as quickly as possible. They would definitely be of great use in the future. However, the dozens of subordinates following the two were left in the Saint by Yi Xian. After all, they had been planted with the slave seal, and there was no problem of them dying in the light. With their presence, the news of Huigulei and Wufengtai's death could be confirmed. No one would doubt it. These guys were the trusted subordinates of the two for many years. Yi Xian also didn't move the 1,000 mosquito beasts and 1,000 soldier ladles in the Dongshu shuttle. However, he transferred 1,000,000 mosquito beasts and 10,000 soldier ladles from the Black Mosquito ship and the Black Wind ship to the Saint. At the same time, he also moved the 8-star ladles and all the mosquito beasts and soldier ladles to the second level of the Saint. In this way, the two lower levels of the Saint were allocated. The bottom level was a nest of the evil slime, and the second level was for the mosquito beasts and soldier ladles. Yi Xian wouldn't open the access to these two levels, so no one was allowed to enter or leave. As for the top level, it was naturally for him to use. As for the third level, there was a living area for the demon dwellers, which was enough to accommodate 2,000 to 3,000 people. Yi Xian planned to arrange for all the demon dwellers who controlled the Saint to stay there. Of course, these thousands of demon dwellers had to be temporarily recruited. Fortunately, the Black Mosquito tribe still had 9 demon dwellers planets. The higher-ups had all been planted with slave imprints, so it wouldn't be a problem to recruit a few hundred demon dwellers on each demon dweller planet. Yi Xian would be able to recruit all 3,000 demon dwellers in one go. After doing all of this, he immediately stored the Void Hole shuttle and the Black Mosquito ship into the undying world within his body. Just as he was about to store the black wind as well, a thought flashed through Yi Xian's mind. He suddenly remembered that there seemed to be some unresolved matters within the black wind that he needed to deal with. To be precise, there were two matters. Firstly, the 1,000 elites of the Wanluo Federation who didn't manage to escape in the bottom level of the Wanluo prison, including Prince Xian. Secondly, the Black Wind ship's guardian demon beast, the Black Wind Beast. The Black Wind Beast wasn't in a hurry. Although the Black Wind ship was the main flagship of the Demon Dwellers' scout army, the guardian demon beast was stronger than the Black Mosquito ship's Li Mosquito. Like Bachai, it had reached Black Hole Realm level 9. However, the Black 9's strength was nothing to Yi Xian now. Either the 8-star Wang Biao or Prince Xueben would be able to suppress it immediately. It wasn't good for this demon beast to show itself. He could just find some time to deal with it or subdue it. After all, it was locked up in the demon nest of the Black Wind ship and couldn't come out at all. As for the 1,000 elites of the Federation at the bottom level of the Black Wind ship, it seemed like it was time to check on them. There were more than 10,000 people locked up in the Black Wind ship's Wanluo prison. When Yi Xian refined the Black Wind ship, he only released close to 10,000 people, and didn't release the remaining 1,000 because of Prince Xian. He couldn't possibly leave him alone, right? That would be too obvious. As for the 1,000 elites of the Federation, Yi Xian planned to release them after returning to the third universe. Everything would be based on the Black Mosquito ship's model, so there was no need to worry. The key was that Prince Xian. Although Yi Xian didn't have any enmity with him, ever since he obtained the level 9 gene cultivation fluid from the Undying Star, and found a drop of undying ancestral dragon blood in it, he had coincidentally swallowed it in front of Prince Xian in the Wanluo prison. The conflict between the two could no longer be resolved. They were destined to be on opposite sides. This time, the arrival of the human race's elite fleet from Naples in the first universe already showed that Prince Xian's matter couldn't be delayed any longer. Yi Xian could deal with the other 1,000 elites of the Federation a little later, but it was better to deal with Prince Xian as soon as possible. Chapter 3042. Translator. Exodus Tales Editor. Exodus Tales Immortal Blood Crystal. It seems that the Black Wind still has close to 100,000 void soldier ladles. I hope that guy has been scared to death so that I won't have to make a move. Yi Xian sighed and muttered to himself as he stepped into the Black Wind's myriad cataclysm. Among the 100,000 void soldier ladles, there were 5,000 Black Hole Realm 7-star general ladles. Of the 1,000 void soldier ladles that Yi Xian brought into the Dongshu shuttle, there were 200 void soldier ladles from the 4th realm to the 8th realm. In addition, of the 10,000 void soldier ladles that moved from the Black Wind to the Saint, there were 2,000 Black Hole Realm soldiers. In other words, there were close to 90,000 void soldier ladles in the Black Wind's myriad cataclysm. Among them, there were close to 3,000 Black Hole Realm 7-star general ladles. There were only slightly more than 1,000 Federation elites still imprisoned in the myriad cataclysm. Although there were Black Hole Realm elites among them, there were only 6 or 7 of them. Moreover, they were only at the early stages of Black Hole Realm level 1 to level 3. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been captured. Under such circumstances, facing such a terrifying army of soldiers with terrifying numbers and strength, the 1,000 or so elites of the Federation had probably spent every day in fear ever since they moved in and started living together with them. Fortunately, the pillars of the cage were strong enough to give them a weak sense of security. However, with the void soldiers' good teeth, Yi Xian wasn't sure if the pillars of the cage would be able to withstand it. It was only now that he realized that this was only the second time he had entered the myriad cataclysm in the Black Wind's myriad cataclysm. After releasing the 10,000 Federation elites, he hadn't gone back to take a look. He didn't know if Prince Xian and the others were still alive. At this thought, Yi Xian's expression turned strange. In an instant, he appeared in the prison guard's living quarters at the edge of the Black Wind's myriad cataclysm. There were void soldier ladles everywhere. Although the Heaven's Legacy race's space fortresses all use space-folding technology, the myriad cataclysm was only so big. It was still a little crowded for 100,000 void soldier ladles to enter. Seeing Yi Xian and feeling the aura of the mother marrow that was being emitted from his body, the void soldiers immediately let out a light cry of joy. They all crawled over and followed behind Yi Xian as they walked towards the cage area of the Myriad Heaven prison. After Yi Xian released the 10,000 Federation elites, The rest of the cataclysm were all gone. Refining the black wind would be able to achieve this. Seeing Yixian cataclysm again, the 1,000 Federation elites were all taken aback at first, but then they realized something. Their faces contorted in shock, but there was also a hint of doubtful joy in their eyes. Yixian cataclysm had mixed in with the 10,000 escapees and left with them. He had used the devouring system to retract the pillars of the myriad cataclysm and open the myriad cataclysm. Thus, these people had no idea that Yixian cataclysm, the young man who had been captured in the Black Wind's myriad cataclysm, was actually the perpetrator of that inexplicable amnesty. But now they understood everything. Moreover, Yixian cataclysm had appeared here again, and the 100,000 terrifying black beetles around him were like pets, joyfully following behind him. There was no longer any suspense. This young man had already taken control of the Black Wind and possessed an incomparably powerful foundation. Just these black beetles alone were enough to sweep through a small country. This was also the reason why they were so happy. After all, they were all on the same side. Perhaps Yixian cataclysm's arrival represented their freedom. But at the same time, when they thought about how Yixian cataclysm hadn't appeared for such a long time, they realized that if he wanted to release them, he would have done so long ago. That was why, amidst their joy, they were also incomparably nervous and doubtful. Yixian cataclysm didn't pay any attention to all of this. His gaze swept towards the cage where Prince Xian was, and then his expression changed abruptly. Out of the 1,000 over cages, the rest were undamaged. Only Prince Xian's cage had a large chunk of 10 thick black pillars eaten away, and a large hole had appeared on one side of the cage. It was large enough for a Black Hole Realm soldier to enter. Inside the cage, apart from some bloodstains on the ground, that Prince Xian was already gone. Eaten by the soldier? But why did it only eat him? The other 1,000 over people were clearly fine. With this doubt, Yixian cataclysm subconsciously turned his head to look at the other cages around him. There was a questioning look in his eyes. The expressions of these people also became strange. They clearly understood what Yixian cataclysm meant and then carefully spoke one after another. That guy is a lunatic. He deserves to be eaten by bugs. Since that day, that guy hasn't had a moment of peace. It's rare for him to shut up, but he only takes a break. At most, after 2 hours, he immediately starts scolding again. Not only are we annoyed, but even these bugs are annoyed by him. After scaring him a few times to no avail, they simply gnawed a hole, crawled in, and swallowed him whole. He's a complete lunatic. He keeps saying that he's Prince Xian. Who? How can the prince of our human race's everlasting dynasty be like this? What a shrew. As these words entered his ears, Yixian slowly opened his mouth wide. At first he was shocked, then he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In the end, he was extremely emotional. This was truly a case of retribution for being cheap. Back then, Yixian had been scolded so badly by him that he almost killed this brat on the spot. Who would have thought that in the end this brat would still die because of his cheap mouth? But then again, just based on this cheap mouth alone, no one would believe that he was Prince Xian of an everlasting dynasty. This was good too. At least this way, the everlasting dynasty's royal family's reputation would be preserved. Otherwise, once this matter spread through the other Federation elites in the myriad cataclysm, the entire royal family would be humiliated. Just as Yixian was thinking about this, a Black Hole Realm 7-star general suddenly crawled out from among the soldiers behind Yixian and went straight to Yixian. After chirping lightly twice, it opened its mouth and spat out a fiery red crystal. This red crystal was only the size of a pigeon's egg, but it was sparkling and translucent. It vaguely emitted an aura similar to that of the immortal ancestral dragon's blood that Yixian had refined. Yixian's expression changed slightly. Like a conditioned reflex, he moved as fast as lightning and instantly put the crystal back into his body. Fortunately, this general's body was huge and blocked in front of him. As such, those Federation elites in the 1,000-odd cages didn't see the crystal appear. At the same time, the familiar system notification sounded in his mind, just as he had expected. Chapter 3043. Translator. Nyobo Studio Editor. Nyobo Studio Demonic Mutation. Yixian immediately left the Black Wind, ignoring the thousands of Federation elites who were still in their cages. After all, it was safe here, and he had no intention of explaining anything. so there was no need for him to say anything. After keeping the black wind into his undying world, he immediately returned to the command cabin on the top floor of the Saint. After giving the order to continue heading to the Black Mosquito Star Zone, he immediately closed his eyes and entered a state of cultivation. The immortal blood crystal that he had just obtained was clearly the crystallization of the bloodline of the Immortal Dynasty's royal family. Legend had it that the immortal divine dragon's bloodline flowed within the Immortal Dynasty's royal family. After obtaining that drop of immortal ancestral dragon's blood, Yi Xian had confirmed this legend. He also knew that the divine dragon's bloodline that flowed within the Immortal Dynasty's royal family came from the golden divine dragon of the primordial era. After Prince Xian was swallowed by the 7-star General Ladle, his flesh, clothes, and even the treasures he carried with him were probably all digested. The Void Soldier Ladle could even eat through the universe, let alone these things. However, the golden divine dragon's bloodline in his flesh and blood seemed to have been purified and condensed into an immortal blood crystal. Perhaps the 7-star General Ladle knew that the divine dragon's bloodline in his flesh and blood was good stuff, but it was too thin. Therefore, it purified it and created this item. Moreover, the divine dragon's bloodline that the Immortal Dynasty's royal family had somehow obtained gradually thinned with each generation. At the same time, it was also imprinted with the changes left behind by the royal family's supreme experts. Therefore, this immortal blood crystal had two meanings to Yi Xian. First, by absorbing it, Yi Xian's divine dragon's bloodline would improve further. Second, because the blood crystal was imprinted with the bloodline aura of the royal family's supreme experts, once Yi Xian merged it into his own bloodline, he would transform into the real Prince Xian. Although he would not be that person, his bloodline would definitely be that of the Immortal Dynasty's royal family. Perhaps even the imperial preceptor of the Immortal Dynasty, the heir, would not be able to deny this. The divine dragon aura in the blood crystal was not very strong. Although it had some effect on the evolution of Yi Xian's divine dragon bloodline, it was not very effective. However, the latter was more powerful. As long as this was realized, Yi Xian would no longer need to hide from the search of the immortal royal family. He could openly return to the third universe, and from then on, he would truly be Prince Xian. As for appearances and the like, in this current flourishing age of cultivation, even the weakest meteor tier 1 could easily conceal their figure or change their appearance. There was really no one who would be too conflicted about this point. This was the final trial after all. He couldn't even reveal his identity as a member of the royal family. It was only natural for him to change his appearance. Since he was used to this appearance, he was too lazy to change it back. After all, Prince Xian had used this appearance to become famous in the 3 universes. In order to take care of the feelings of his fans, it was reasonable to continue using this appearance. Replacing Prince Xian was an extremely shocking idea. However, because of the existence of this blood crystal, everything became possible. Yi Xian was not greedy for riches and honor. Instead, he wanted to grow. It was obvious how much power a prince had. He only wanted this kind of power because it was extremely convenient for him to search for the devouring origin and other cultivation resources. The blood crystal, which was only the size of a pigeon egg, quickly melted and merged with Yi Xian's flesh. A piercing pain spread from his bone marrow to the surface of his skin. It was a piercing pain that existed in every single cell of his body. It was the same feeling as when he had used the divine dragon bloodline body tempering secret technique to temper his body in the corpse pool. However, because of his previous foundation and the fact that the divine dragon bloodline in this blood crystal was not very rich, the piercing pain was much less than the previous time. However, for some reason this time only the area between his eyebrows, where Yi Xian had activated the demonic soul pupil after refining the demonic soul spirit that had turned into a little jade rabbit, was especially painful. It was not inferior to the previous time. Fortunately, this was the only part of his body where the pain was so intense, so it was not unbearable. The entire process of refining the blood crystal did not take long. It was over in less than 10 minutes. Yi Xian opened his eyes. At this moment, the system notification sounded in his mind again. Ding! Congratulations to the host for leveling up. Current level: Satellite level 8. Ding! Congratulations to the host for leveling up the giant dragon body tempering technique. Current level: Growth level. Ding! Congratulations to the host for the Golden Divine Dragon Bloodline mutation. Direction of mutation. Demonic Torch Dragon. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the mutated Demonic Dragon Bloodline special ability. Demonic Dragon's Gaze. Current level. Beginner level. As the series of system notifications sounded one after another, Yixian fell into a daze again. The leveling up of his cultivation was within his expectations. The only thing he was a little surprised about was that he had leveled up twice in a row. However, when he thought about it, not only did the blood crystal contain the divine dragon bloodline, but it also contained the aura of the bloodline imprint, left behind by generations of supreme masters. After absorbing it into his body, it was normal for him to level up twice in a row. In addition, the leveling up of the giant dragon body tempering technique from the beginner level to the growth level was also within his expectations. What truly shocked him was the mutation that had occurred during the advancement of the dragon bloodline. Leveling up? It sounded like a good thing, and when the system mentioned this, it also used the word congratulations, which was a great blessing. Thinking about the abnormal pain of the demon soul pupil between his eyebrows, Yixian felt that the so-called bloodline mutation this time was most likely related to the demon soul pupil. After his giant dragon bloodline had leveled up into the demonic dragon bloodline, he had obtained the demonic dragon bloodline special ability called the demonic dragon's gaze, which happened to be related to his eyes. Therefore, this point was basically confirmed. The words demonic torch dragon reminded Yixian of a primordial legend. In primordial legends, dragons could be regarded as a kind of supreme divine beast, and there were actually many kinds of them, each with their own characteristics and different powers, such as the winged dragon, horn dragon, jiao dragon, horn dragon, and so on. The golden divine dragon was powerful, but in some primordial legends, there was a kind of dragon that was even more powerful than the golden divine dragon. It was called the demonic dragon, the underworld dragon, or the torch dragon. In the legends, the torch dragon was also known as the Zhuyin, the Hui dragon, or the torch dragon. Its image was said to be that of a dragon with a human face. It held a candle in its mouth, illuminating the darkness in the northwest where there was no sun. Legend had it that its power was extremely great. When it opened its eyes, the sky was bright, which was the day. When it closed its eyes, the sky was dark, which was the night. Its eyes were the light. Its eyes were the light. It was a simple sentence, but the aura and majesty it displayed was enough to make one's heart tremble. When it opened its eyes, it was the day, and when it closed its eyes, it was the night. The whole world, such a big world, was decided by the simple opening of a living creature's eyes. This kind of saying was almost exaggerated and too mysterious. Chapter 3044. Translator. Nayobo Studio Editor. Nayobo Studio. Goodbye to the ferocious mosquito emperor this time. Yixian had gained a lot. As a result, he, who had been pleasantly surprised recently, couldn't help but feel his heart pounding. His cultivation had reached the 8th stage of the satellite realm, and he only needed to advance one more stage to reach the full circle of the realm. After that, he would reach the 4th major realm, the planet realm. Even a rocket wouldn't be that fast. Obtaining the identity of the immortal royal bloodline had resolved the crisis in front of him. Yixian could openly return to the 3rd universe at any time. After returning, there would be many benefits. Using the identity of Prince Xian, it wouldn't take long for him to find the origin of engulfment to reap the rewards. More importantly, he had obtained the demonic dragon bloodline ability. He immediately looked inside and checked his mind. The golden scale that represented the inheritance of the golden dragon bloodline had indeed turned black and gold. It seemed more mysterious, thick, and ancient. Judging from its black and gold color, Yixian most likely possessed the bloodlines of the demonic dragon candle dragon and the golden dragon. This could be inferred from the fact that he possessed the dragon tempering technique and the demonic dragon's gaze, 2 different bloodline abilities of the dragon clan. This sudden fortuitous encounter changed Yixian's thoughts rapidly. He had decided to stay in the 1st universe because he wanted to find the origin of engulfment and an energy source that could be absorbed by the world's insects. The latter had been resolved. As for the former, after obtaining the identity of Prince Xian, returning to the 3rd universe to search would obviously be faster than searching here. In addition, the problem of Prince Xian's identity no longer existed. Therefore, Yixian suddenly had the thought of leaving. Of course, there were still some things that he had to do before leaving. First, he had to try to search for information about the origin of engulfment in the first universe. His personal star communication system had been upgraded to the growth stage, and it had entered the growth stage of the star superbrain. Its search radius had increased to a light year, and its functions had greatly increased. Yi Xian could try to secretly connect to the star network of the demonic emperor planet, which was the star network of the Tianji race, and see if he could find anything. In addition, before leaving, he had to visit the mosquito race planet once. Previously, the Mad Mosquito Emperor had given Yi Xian 2 conditions. His cultivation must be before the origin realm. Also, his mind and art force art studio level art. If he could satisfy these 2 conditions at the same time, then Yi Xian would be able to return to the Mosquito Beast star. The Mad Mosquito Emperor had once promised him with his Tao heart that he would give Yi Xian a great fortune. Although it wasn't because of this matter, it was just to say goodbye. Letting Prince Xueben and the Mad Mosquito Emperor meet again was something that should be done. Originally, there were 2 other places he should go. One was the Holy Demon Forbidden Land, and the other was the Black Hole of Life. However, the former was still too dangerous for him, so he could only postpone this matter. As for the Black Hole of Life, the countless Void Soldiers were doing well inside, so there was no need for him to make a trip there. If there was a need for him to go there, he could enter the first universe through the wormhole at any time and launch an interstellar coordinate jump. It was very convenient. In addition, Yi Xian still had some chores to clean up at the Black Mosquito tribe, and that was the dozens of higher-ups of the Black Mosquito 9 stars who had been taken as demon slaves by him. This time, when he returned to Universe 3, he did not know whether to bring them along with him. If he really did that, the entire Black Mosquito tribe would be finished. They would be leaderless. Therefore, after some consideration, Yi Xian gave up in the end. He would just treat it as a spy he had planted in the first universe. Who knows, it might be of great use in the future. In the end, he decided to go to the Mosquito Beast star first. Then, he would go to the Black Mosquito 9 stars and get 4,000 demon slaves to enter the saint and plant the slave mark. In this way, his 1,000 demon slave team would increase from 6 to 10. A total of 10,000 demon slaves. Just thinking about it was scary. After doing these 2 things, he would finally go to the demonic emperor star. He would connect to the star network mainframe from afar and launch a search. If there was no result, he would immediately return to Universe 3. After deciding on the itinerary, Yi Xian immediately gave the order to advance at full speed. Their destination was the Mosquito Beast star. Half a day later, Yi Xian put away the saint in the distant void. His physical body crossed and entered the atmosphere of the Mosquito Beast star. At that moment, he waved his hand and summoned Xueben from the pet ring. The 2 of them, one in front and one behind, went straight to the center of the planet. As a supreme existence of the Grotto Heaven realm, the entire Mosquito Beast star was covered by the Mad Mosquito King's mental energy. He immediately sensed Yi Xian and Xueben's arrival and appeared immediately. Then, after seeing Yi Xian for the first time, his expression changed and he exclaimed in shock, "Damn! Are you on steroids every day, brat? You're almost at the peak of the satellite realm? How many days have you been away?" Yi Xian was a little proud at first, but after sensing the Mad Mosquito King's aura, he immediately rolled his eyes. "I'm only at the 3rd level. No matter how many levels I have increased, it can't be compared to your breakthrough in the Grotto Heaven realm, right? Last time you were at the 1st level of the Grotto Heaven realm. How long has it been? You're already at the 7th level of the Grotto Heaven realm. You're the one on steroids every day. Hee brat, I'm not breaking through, I'm recovering. It's good that I'm in high spirits. Of course it's fast. Then what was your original cultivation level? Mystic Light Realm? Or even stronger?" Yi Xian took this opportunity to ask again. He had always been curious about the Mad Mosquito King's cultivation. This guy was too mysterious. "Huh, you even know that the 11th level is the Mystic Light Realm? Did you meet someone in the Mystic Light Realm recently?" The Mad Mosquito King immediately exclaimed in surprise. Then as he spoke, he released a strand of mental energy toward Yi Xian to investigate. When this strand of mental energy came into contact with Yi Xian's body, he didn't resist. He trusted the Mad Mosquito Emperor quite a bit. At the very least, the mental imprint that the other party had left outside his sea of consciousness had only been able to protect his sea of consciousness. It had never crossed the line and entered his sea of consciousness without permission. In the next second, the Mad Mosquito King suddenly exclaimed, "Golden Dragon Bloodline? Underworld Dragon 19 Bloodline? Desolate Ancient Yaksha Divine Ability? 6th level Mental Energy? And the aura of the Weeping Soul Blood Ape? Heavens, this tattoo. Could it be the Heavenly Tao Nascent Soul? No, that's impossible." As the Mad Mosquito King exclaimed one after another, Yi Xian's body shook violently, and an expression of disbelief appeared on his face. The Mad Mosquito King's mental energy clearly hadn't entered his mind. In fact, it had only touched his body for a moment, but it was as if it could see through Yi Xian. This was clearly through the faint aura left on Yi Xian's body by the Mad Mosquito King's bloodline and divine ability. Even that Heaven's Legacy race upper echelon and Prince Xian's fiancée Ying Tai definitely didn't have such an ability. Those two were supreme existences in the mystic light realm. Chapter 3045. Crutchy Xian didn't hide much from the Mad Mosquito Emperor. Other than the part about Prince Xian, he basically told the Mad Mosquito Emperor everything. Of course, he wouldn't reveal the most important secrets about the Devouring system and the Undying World to Yi Xian. On one hand, the reason why Yi Xian did this was because he trusted the Mad Mosquito Emperor, and on the other hand, it was because he could be considered to have a strong foundation. Even if the Mad Mosquito Emperor was an existence that surpassed the profound light realm, with the headless corpse of an infant, it would be useless for him to scheme against him. In addition, Yi Xian's honesty had another purpose. He hoped to get some feedback from the Mad Mosquito Emperor. Putting aside his cultivation realm, the fact that the Mad Mosquito Emperor was able to recognize the aura of the giant golden dragon and the underworld dragon Nine, as well as the weeping soul blood ape and the desolate ancient Yaksha, showed just how mysterious he was. He even knew the origin of the headless corpse lamp tattoo on Yi Xian's chest with a single glance. He even uttered the words Heavenly Tao Nascent Soul in surprise. Was it the Heavenly Tao Nascent Soul corpse? Could it be that this headless infant's corpse is actually the embodiment of the will of the Heaven Tao from the primordial era? But why was it in the form of a baby? Who cut off its head? Also, what was the truth behind the War of the Ancients? If the headless infant corpse was really the will of the Heavenly Tao from the primordial era, then how could it have caused such a destructive war? The powerful beings of the primordial era were divided into two camps. One camp called themselves gods and the other camp was called demons. As the will of the Heavenly Tao of that era, how could it allow this to happen? In fact, all of this had been entangled in Yi Xian's mind recently. From time to time it would pop up, making him fascinated and subconsciously recall the primordial age. At this moment, with the Mad Mosquito Emperor's abnormal behavior, Yi Xian felt like he had found the hope of answering all of these questions. As such, he immediately told the Mad Mosquito Emperor about most of his experiences. Then he started to question the Mad Mosquito Emperor. "Don't ask about these things. I won't tell you. More accurately, I can't tell you and I don't dare to tell you. At least, before that thing on your chest allows it, you won't be able to get any more information from me." As he spoke, the Mad Mosquito Emperor, whose face was filled with fear and was clearly still in a state of extreme shock, quickly glanced at Yi Xian's chest before letting out a sigh. "You can forget what I said before. It will tell you what to do when the time comes. It will. Go back. I've heard about what happened in the Black Mosquito Star Zone recently. I didn't expect you to be a prince of the human race's everlasting dynasty. Since that's the case, you can't stay here any longer. Once DE of the Tianji clan finds out that he chose you, he'll probably pay any price to capture you. Even if the entire Tianji clan is destroyed, he'll definitely take you down. This matter can't be hidden for long. While DE still doesn't know, leave immediately." As for Xue Ben, speaking of this, the Mad Mosquito Emperor turned his head to look at Prince Xue Ben, who had been silent all this time but was much quieter than before. He seemed to be gradually returning to normal. There was a hint of gentleness in the Mad Mosquito Emperor's eyes. He smiled with relief. Before this, there was only hope for his recovery. Now, I'm absolutely sure that my son will recover his mind in the future, as long as he stays with you. Take him away. You respect him as your elder brother. What is there to worry about? Who would have thought that the bizarre affairs of the world could be so surprising? It's all worth it. So it has already, ha ha ha, laughing loudly. The Mad Mosquito Emperor no longer paid any attention to Yi Xian and Prince Shui Ben. He turned around and flew into the depths of the mosquito star, disappearing in the blink of an eye. The it he mentioned at the end was clearly the headless infant corpse. From this, it could be seen that the Mad Mosquito Emperor was indeed aware of the headless infant corpse's origins. This also proved that his origins were not to be underestimated. How could he be in ordinary existence if he was related to the headless infant corpse? Yi Xian fell into deep thought. The Mad Mosquito Emperor's words made him even more confused. Even the Mad Mosquito Emperor was so afraid of the headless infant corpse. Moreover, it seemed that Di also knew about the headless infant corpse. What was the truth behind all this? Filled with confusion, Yi Xian immediately left the Mosquito Beast Star with the Bloodbin Prince. Then, he circled around the entire Black Mosquito Star region and went to visit all of the remaining Black Mosquito 9 stars. In just 3 days, he had lured 4,000 demon dwellers into the Saint. Moreover, during this period of time, Yi Xian had used all his strength to condense 4,000 different level slave seals. At this point, all of the devil cultivator experts within the Holy Sun had become his devil slaves. Since he had decided to return to the third universe, he considered that the Black Mosquito tribe could not be leaderless. After all, the higher-ups of the Black Mosquito 9 stars were his people. This had become the secret headquarters that Yi Xian had left in the first universe. He really couldn't let him decline like this. In addition, the high priest of the imperial capital Wenxing had died. Huegulu had the opportunity to enter the Devil Royal Planet. After all, he was from Wenxing's bloodline. The Devil Emperor Mo Wentian would more or less take care of him for old time's sake. Therefore, the high priest of the Black Mosquito tribe, Huegulu, and dozens of his trusted subordinates were all released by Yi Xian. They stayed on the Black Mountain Star. As for the great commanders Wufengtai, Yi Xian had just decided to take him away. It was a good thing to keep a demon dweller expert of the Fourth Order Origin Realm by his side. Although the 8 stars Wang Biao and Prince Shui Ben were also in the Origin Realm, it would not be convenient for them to appear often after they returned to the third universe. Wufengtai, on the other hand, looked no different from a human, so he did not have such concerns. After doing all this, the last thing Yi Xian needed to do in the Demon Dweller Star Zone was to go to the Devil Royal Planet. From the distant void he would invade the Star Net and connect to the Tianji clan's main net. Then, he would search for news of the engulfing origin. After doing this, he could return to the third universe and return to the human race as Prince Xian. At that time it would definitely be another exciting experience. With this expectation in mind, Yi Xian immediately left the Black Mosquito Star Zone and quickly rushed to the Devil Royal Star Zone. What he did not know was that on the second day after the Saint ship left the Black Mosquito Star Zone, the Star Zone was once again in turmoil. This time the situation was several times more serious than before. Even the Tianji clan Xingtai, who was in the 11th Profound Light Realm, was alarmed and hurried back to the Black Mosquito Star Zone from the Black Wind Star Zone. Chapter 3046. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. The arrival of the human stronghold. The fleet of the human race's immortal dynasty had arrived once again. However, this time even Ingtai, who was at the Mystic Light Realm, didn't dare to act rashly. That's right, she did have a stronghold that was 100,000 meters in diameter in her body. However, Ingtai didn't choose to take out the stronghold to fight against this elite fleet of the human race. This was because she wasn't confident in winning at all. Thus, she could only choose to hide in the dark and observe from afar. This time, the human race's immortal army only had 5 battleships. This was half the number of battleships from last time, but their battle strength was many times greater. The 5 battleships were all strongholds that were 100,000 meters in diameter. In past wars, this level of Starry Sky Fortress was often used to guard the rear and serve as a strategic deterrent. But this time, the Immortal Dynasty had mobilized 5 Starry Sky Fortresses at once. Such a grand display of power even gave Ingtai a fright. This also showed how determined the Immortal Dynasty was this time. They had to find Prince Xian. If he was alive, they had to see him. If he was dead, they had to see his corpse. Perhaps this was why the dynasty had mobilized 5 battleships at once, all of which were 100,000 meters in diameter. Only such a stronghold could enter and leave safely in a dangerous place like the Heaven Lightning Tomb in a short period of time. Even the other cosmic battleships that were 50,000 meters in diameter definitely didn't have this ability. Entering would mean the destruction of the battleship and the death of the people on board. In the human race's technology faction, the high-ranking generals that had the right to command 100,000 meters in diameter stronghold were usually 4-star generals or even 5-star generals. However, this time, the commander of the fleet that had brought these 5 strongholds to the first universe in such a short period of time was still 3-star General Naples. This was clearly a hint that an exception was about to be made. After all, although Naples didn't bring Prince Xian back to the human race last time, he had still found him. It was just that Prince Xian had purposely avoided him for some reason. More importantly, when Naples' fleet encountered the Heaven's Legacy race's interstellar fortress, he immediately made the decision to scatter and flee, and he was the last to leave. This effectively ensured that Prince Xian's information would be successfully sent back. Even if the Tianji race's interstellar fortress launched a pursuit, with the small fortress in Naples resisting from behind, the 9 cosmic universes that had already begun jumping would be able to enter the wormhole in time. In short, this matter vividly displayed Naples' great responsibility and ability as a senior general of the Immortal Army. In addition, after returning, the dynasty's officials immediately reported the news of Prince Xian, allowing the countless fans of the prince in the human race and the Wanluo Federation to know that the dynasty's military had not only dispatched a fleet but also lost a cosmic universe state and thousands of Immortal Army elites. Furthermore, Prince Xian's whereabouts had been confirmed. He was currently safe. As such, the resentment of the prince's fans gradually dissipated, and the pressure on the royal family was greatly reduced. A high-ranking member of the royal family in charge of the military was overjoyed. As such, it was only natural that he would give Naples a recommendation. It could be said that even if Naples still couldn't bring Prince Xian back to the human race this time, as long as he did something here, preferably a more intense battle and the destruction of 1 or 2 interstellar fortresses, he would still be treated as a hero by the royal family when he returned and would be given an exceptional recommendation. Of course, he wouldn't intentionally cause the destruction of the human race's interstellar fortresses. However, Naples had indeed descended with the intention of causing a huge ruckus. Only a great battle, could bring about the intensity of his desire. With such thoughts in mind, the moment the 5 interstellar fortresses of the human race descended on the Black Mosquito Star Zone, they immediately wiped out more than 10 fleets of the first universe's slave races that were roaming around this star zone. Following that, on the 3rd day, they directly performed a space jump and rushed towards the demonic Emperor planet. Since the destruction of a tribe's main planet didn't hurt the demonic race, then this time they would make an example out of the demonic Emperor planet. The 5 interstellar fortresses would definitely be able to destroy the demonic Emperor city. After all, the demonic race didn't have interstellar fortresses with a diameter of 100,000 meters. As for Prince Xian, Naples had originally decided to go to the interstellar lightning grave to rescue him. However, during these 3 days of sweeping, he received news of Prince Xian's reappearance. This made everyone heave a sigh of relief, including a member of the royal family, who was the deputy commander of the fleet. This member of the royal family was the current immortal emperor's younger brother. Prince Xian should call him imperial uncle, and his name was Long Tianba. Among the outstanding princes of the empire who were active in public, the one who supported him was the second prince Long Shumian. As for Prince Xian, he was ranked 18th among the princes. Normally, he wasn't very close to this imperial uncle Long Tianba, let alone on good terms. The reason the latter had followed Naples' fleet to the first universe this time was obviously partly because of the internal strife between the royal families of the immortal empire. As for the truth, it was a taboo topic. Ordinary people had no way of knowing, and those who knew some inside information definitely wouldn't talk about it. Yi Xian was even more clueless about all of this. At this moment, he was still on his way to the demonic Emperor planet. It had only been 3 days since he left the Black Mosquito Star Zone. His Saint ship was just an ordinary 10,000-meter-long fortress. Even if it traveled at full speed and jumped through wormholes along the way, it would take at least 7 to 8 days to reach the demonic Emperor planet. What made people speechless was that Yi Xian had left 3 days earlier, but in the end, he fell behind Naples' fleet. On the afternoon of the 7th day, When the Saint ship finally arrived at the demonic Emperor star zone, Naples had already been there for half a day. After all, the entire fleet was a 10,000-meter-long fortress. 4 days was enough to travel from the Black Mosquito star zone to the demonic Emperor star zone. As a result, Ing Tai, who had been following closely behind the fleet in secret, was shaken off by Naples. Although she also had a fortress, it was really inconvenient for her to take it out. With the supreme cultivation of the mystic light realm, it would also take her 5 days to travel from the Black Mosquito star zone to the demonic Emperor star zone from the Black Mosquito star zone, which was only 2 days faster than the fortress. In other words, Ing Tai, who had traveled through space with her physical body, would only arrive the next day. Naples already knew that Prince Xian had left the Black Mosquito star zone and was heading towards the demonic Emperor planet. Furthermore, he had most likely already arrived. As such, the 5 human fortresses had all activated their concealment formations before entering this star zone. He had to first collect information and confirm Prince Xian's whereabouts before making a decision. If he could find Prince Xian, there would naturally be no need for a bloody battle. It would be more effective to bring him back immediately. Therefore, the 5 human fortresses quietly lay dormant in space not far from the demonic Emperor planet and secretly collected information. Chapter 3047. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The root of all evil. Similarly, Yi Xian had activated the concealment matrix to enter the demonic Emperor galaxy. His personal interstellar communicator could be accessed within a light-year's range. Therefore, Yi Xian's Saint had stopped not far from the demonic Emperor galaxy. The distance between the two was not far, but neither was aware of the other's existence. That was quite a sight to behold. As the Saint Child slowly came to a stop, Yi Xian immediately ordered the Devouring system in his body to activate his personal star communication system. He ordered it to use all its strength to search for all the star network signals in the nearby void, and list them out one by one for him to choose who to connect with. The system responded quickly. Ding! Personal interstellar communicator activated. Beginning search for interstellar signals. Progress 1. Ding! Congratulations to the host. Detected interstellar signals. Strength weak. Ding! Congratulations to the host. Detected interstellar communicator. Strength average. Ding! System notifications rang in Yi Xian's mind. Every time the Devouring system found an interstellar communicator or interstellar superbrain signal, it would be displayed on the search results list. Yi Xian did not waste any time and began to examine them one by one. Why are these 5 interstellar communicators so strong? Soon, Yi Xian found 5 highlighted objects on the search results list. All of them were interstellar communicators, and they were extremely strong. Interstellar signals were actually interstellar communicators. After all, the central control of the interstellar network was the interstellar superbrain. But there were still differences between the two. The interstellar superbrain could clearly distinguish between the two. Interstellar communicators were usually sent out by the interstellar superbrain that built a large-scale open network on an administrative planet or a larger interstellar domain. Interstellar communicators were specially distinguished and referred to as interstellar communicators. Interstellar communicators were usually local area network signals of warships or space fortresses. An open network could not be accessed from any interstellar network. Otherwise, it would be considered trespassing. In other words, the signals came from either 5 battleships or a bastion. That was to be expected. The Milky Way was full of planets and then battleships. The key was that the signal was so strong. Basically, they must be very close to each other. Or perhaps, the superbrains of these 5 battleships were all at the immortal rank. The latter was obviously impossible, so it could only be the former. However, there was not a single warship in sight around Yi Xian's Saint ship. It was obvious that the other party was also in a concealed state. Furthermore, with Yi Xian's immortal rank intercom and his current strength as a juvenile, he would be able to lock onto the general location of the star brain signal of an ordinary battleship or even a space fortress, even if the other party was hidden. However, not only were the 5 star brain waves ridiculously strong, they were also erratic, making it impossible to lock onto them. That's at least 5 cosmic state fortresses with a diameter of 50,000 meters. As this thought flashed through his mind, Yi Xian was immediately shocked. The first thing that came to his mind was the Tianji race's ambush. Of course, it could also be the 5 cosmic state fortresses that the Demon Emperor planet and several other fleets of the slave races in the first universe had put together. However, no matter which one it was, one thing was for sure. This had to be related to Yixian. This was the first universe. The demons and the slave race's fleets had activated a concealment formation and were lying in wait here. They couldn't have set up a trap for their own people, right? The only person they were targeting was Prince Xian. Could it be that his identity had been exposed? Or could it be that the matter of him killing that mystic light realm Tianji race upper echelon and seizing his silver cosmic fortress had already been exposed? Other than that, Yixian couldn't think of any other reason why the other party would make such a big fuss. 5 cosmic state fortresses. They could easily wipe out the entire Black Mosquito tribe. Fortunately, when I entered the Demon Emperor star field this time, I activated the concealment formation before coming here. In addition, as the main control center of the Holy Sun was refined by my personal Starry Sky communication system, the main control center of the latter is an immortal-grade superbrain that has entered its infancy stage. Therefore, while refining the Saint's main control center, its additional attributes were also improved to a certain extent. It no longer has to fear the signal search of the superbrain in this kind of small fortress. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. While feeling shocked, Yixian couldn't help but secretly rejoice. I'm afraid that the other party would have discovered me as soon as I entered the Demon Emperor planet. When that happens, the 5 cosmic state fortresses will open fire at the same time. If I'm caught off guard, even if I don't die, I'll lose a layer of skin. As he thought of this, a layer of white sweat appeared on his back. In that kind of situation, the Saint would definitely be lost, and he, in his haste, might not have had enough time to activate an interstellar coordinate jump. That would have been a dead end. After a moment of lingering fear, Yixian became even more cautious. He even specially reminded the Devouring system to inform the personal cosmic communication system attached to it, so as to maintain the concealment of the signal as much as possible. However, this time, since he was already here, and he could immediately return to Universe 3 after finishing this last task. At that time, even if his identity was exposed and he had to escape publicly, it wouldn't matter. Therefore, even though Yixian realized that the other party had an ambush and that the 5 small star-level strongholds were in the nearby void, he still didn't give up on his plan to invade the Demon Emperor star network and use it to invade the next level of the Heavenly Legacy Clan star network. How could one catch a tiger cub without entering the tiger's den? Moreover, he hadn't even entered the Demon Emperor planet, but was still in the void of the Star River, which was quite a distance away from the Demon Emperor planet. If Yixian didn't even have the guts to do this, then there was no need for him to wander the Star River and seek Tao with his heart. At this time, the signal search of the communication system had been completed. Yixian quickly found the signal of the Demon Emperor planet's Starry Sky network, and then ordered his personal communication system to immediately connect, infiltrate, and directly use this network to log into the next level of the Tianji clan's main network, and launch a conditional search. This time, the search condition he gave was the origin of Devouring. Considering that the name of the origin of Devouring might be different here, Yixian even described the characteristics of the origin of Devouring in detail. Although the Devouring system knew about this, it wouldn't take the initiative to use it as a search condition, and so it didn't issue an order to the attached communication system. After the order was issued, the communication system immediately executed, easily infiltrating the Demon Emperor planet's Starry Sky network, and then launching a cross-level invasion. The whole process took about 10 minutes, and Yixian had already received the search results from the Tianji clan's main network. What made him extremely excited was that this time, he had originally planned to make every possible effort, but he didn't expect to receive an unexpected surprise in the end. The suspected origin of the origin of the origin of the origin of Devouring did indeed exist in Universe 1. Chapter 3048. Translator. Exodus Tales Editor. Exodus Tales that scared this prince to death. Although Yixian had found a place suspected to be the source of the Devouring origin, he had no way of going there to investigate and confirm for the time being. The root of all evil was a danger zone, a dangerous danger zone on the level of a middle plane in the first universe. As for the life black hole and the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb that Yixian had already been to, They could only be considered dangerous places on the level of a large star domain. The source of all evil was a level higher than them, and the degree of danger could be seen from this alone. More importantly, the root of all evil was not in the demon-human star field or its surroundings. It was extremely far away, located near the central domain of the first universe. That was also where the Celestial Legacy Race's headquarters was located. Even with the space fortress of 100,000 meters in diameter, traveling day and night at full speed and jumping through wormholes along the way, it would still take at least a month to get there. The reason why the Butterfly Starry Sky Fortress had arrived at the Demonkin Star region so quickly was because it happened to be passing by the Demonkin Star region. It had received a command from the Tianji race's main network in the central region of the first universe, so it had quickly rushed over. If the Butterfly Fortress had been in the central domain of the first universe, it probably would not have reached the demon-human star field even if it had traveled at full speed. In addition, although there were many natural wormholes that could be used to jump through during the long journey from the demon-human star field to the central domain of the first universe, some of the more important wormholes were always guarded by the Celestial Legacy Race's main fleets due to their high strategic value. Even if they could force their way through one wormhole, the news would quickly spread. At that time, not only would they not be able to enter the next wormhole, but they would also have to face the encirclement of a massive Celestial Legacy Race fleet when they exited the next wormhole. In other words, this trip to the root of all evil in the central domain of the first universe was not only fraught with danger, but also time. The time limit of 1 month was only for the space fortresses of the Celestial Legacy Race or their slaves. As a human, Yi Xian could not possibly reach the destination within this time limit. If he could not even enter the wormhole, what was the point? Of course, he could also carry out interstellar travel and give up on jumping through wormholes. He could travel in the normal starry sky and rush there at full speed. However, in that case, it would only take him 3 to 5 years to reach the central region of the first universe. It would be too late. In addition, Yi Xian urgently needed to return to the third universe's science and technology faction to deal with the Immortal Dynasty's matters. Furthermore, it would be much more convenient to search for information about the engulfing origin over there. Therefore, after some thought, Yi Xian gave up on the idea of immediately heading to the Devouring origin. Everything would have to wait until he returned to Universe 3 and confirmed whether he could find the Devouring origin there. Then, he would make a final decision based on the results. In that case, all the affairs in the first universe were basically over. There was only one problem that Yi Xian needed to consider, which was the return trip to the third universe of the human race. He had originally planned to take advantage of the fact that the 5 small fortresses in the nearby galaxies were still unaware of the Saints' arrival before they were exposed, and he had planned to quietly retreat as quickly as possible. However, this idea was destined to be a fool's dream, because the moment he decided to return, a shocking and huge change suddenly occurred in this originally tranquil void of the Saint. Everything happened without warning. Caught off guard, Yi Xian was so shocked that half of his soul flew away. This prince was almost scared to death. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, 5 black death ray energy beams with a diameter of about 20,000 meters appeared from 5 different voids in the distance almost at the same time. When the rapid vibrations of space that seemed to be on the verge of destruction rang out, Yi Xian's hair stood on end. Before he could see the 5 terrifying energy beams, he had already realized what kind of existences the 5 big guys lurking in the void around the Saint were from this unique vibrating sound. How could those be small cosmic fortresses? They were clearly 5 cosmic fortresses with a diameter of 100,000 meters. When the Tianji clan's Silver Fortress fired these destructive death ray cannons, Yi Xian had already memorized this unique vibrating sound. There was no way he could have made a mistake. What was even more frightening was that these 5 terrifying death light beams shot out from different directions. Although their targets were all aimed at the Demon Emperor star that was thousands of kilometers away, Yi Xian's Holy Sun ship just happened to be in front of one of the energy beams that shot out from it. In other words, if he couldn't avoid it in time, the Saint would instantly be destroyed and everyone on board would perish. The 5 death ray energy beams were all 20,000 meters in diameter, while Yi Xian's Saint was only a giant fortress with a diameter of 10,000 meters. If it was hit, it would definitely be vaporized in an instant. The entire space fortress and everything inside, including Yi Xian, would be completely annihilated. Unfortunately, at this time, He still didn't know where the cosmic fortress that fired these 5 terrifying energy beams came from, or which camp it belonged to. If it came from the Tianji clan, once the saint was exposed, Yi Xian's fate would actually be no different from being blown to dust by the enemy's cannons. However, he obviously didn't have time to consider this point. A life-and-death crisis had already descended and was rapidly approaching. No matter what, he had to avoid it. Even if he was exposed, there was no other way. Otherwise, he would die immediately. This death ray energy beam that happened to be fired at the saint was 20,000 meters in diameter, while the saint's hull was 10,000 meters in diameter. In other words, if he wanted to avoid it, the saint only needed to move a distance of 10,000 meters. It could be to the left or to the right. In the context of the stars, a distance of 10,000 meters was really insignificant. However, if a condition was added, that the death ray cannon's energy beam was approaching at an extremely fast speed, then this matter was no longer as simple as it seemed. Could even be said to be gripping. Whether it could succeed or not completely depended on the saint's reaction speed and a bit of luck. All of this was instantly analyzed in Yi Xian's mind, and he came to a conclusion. Almost at the same time, his sharp cry rang out, reverberating throughout the entire command cabin on the top floor of the Saint Child. That kind of heart-wrenching urgency made the hearts of those who heard it tremble. Get out of the way now. Wang. Before he could finish speaking, a faint buzzing sound that had reached an extremely high frequency drilled into his ears. It was clearly the sound of that death ray energy beam brushing past the side of the ship. Chapter 3049. Translator. Nayerbo Studio Editor. Nayerbo Studio caught, rumble. Boom. Before Yi Xian could recover from his shock, 5 earth-shattering explosions sounded out from the Demon Emperor star that was thousands of kilometers away. As the capital of the demonic imperial race, the demonic imperial planet had its limits no matter how weak it was. At the very least, there was a starry sky defense system and a long-range warning system. Although the energy beams of the death ray cannons were extremely fast, they were thousands of miles away after all. Perhaps the demonic imperial planet had already received a warning and activated the starry sky defense system when they were halfway there. To put it simply, it was a defensive light shield that covered the entire demonic imperial planet, including its atmosphere. This defensive light shield was formed by countless miniature energy base stations that were set up in various places outside the atmosphere of the demonic imperial planet and inside the planet as nodes. They instantly released a terrifying amount of energy and connected together. The 5 earth-shattering explosions were caused by the energy beams of the death ray cannons when they hit the defensive light shield. Generally speaking, when it was necessary to activate this kind of ultimate starry sky defense system, it was basically equivalent to an existential crisis. Therefore, such defensive light shields were all set up at great cost. Moreover, once the defensive light shield was activated, no expense was spared in terms of consumption. In short, everything was given to ensure that its efficacy was maximized. Because of this, when the 5 energy beams hit the defensive light shield that had been successfully activated, they did not instantly penetrate it. After the earth-shattering explosions, the entire defensive light shield lasted for about 2 seconds before it collapsed. Countless energy nodes that had been set up with a terrifying amount of manpower and material resources were turned into trash in less than 3 seconds. However, this short period of less than 3 seconds was enough for the demonic imperial planet. A huge disaster was successfully averted. The death ray cannons in the starry sky fortress were extremely special. Because the energy beams were created by the antimatter light energy generator in the fortress, its biggest characteristic was that it could devour all positive matter, including light. Everything that blocked its path would be wiped out in an instant as if it had never existed. However, this was also the biggest weakness of the death ray cannons. This ability to devour all positive matter was actually achieved through the opposition and melting of positive and negative matter and energy. In other words, if the positive energy in front of them exceeded the total power of the death ray cannon's energy beam, then the energy beam would be cancelled out and disappear quietly, unable to cause any damage or lethality. Although the ultimate space defense system of the demonic emperor planet had been destroyed in less than 3 seconds, the antimatter energy of the 5 death ray cannons had been reduced by almost 80% in those 3 seconds. The moment the defensive light shield collapsed, The 5 energy beams still shot toward the atmosphere of the Demon Emperor planet within the light shield. They penetrated it and entered the interior of the planet. However, the light beams, which were black to the point of being almost bright, were now so dim that they were about to disappear. With less than 20% of its power left, even if it reached the sky above the city, it would not be able to break through the city's defense system. The commander of the human fortress fleet, Admiral Naples, had already expected all of this. In his opinion, the worst that could happen was to launch another round of attacks. The starry sky defense system of the Demon Emperor planet had been completely destroyed. The second round of attacks from the death ray cannons would directly blast into the interior of the planet. If that did not work, there would be a third round. In short, today he had no choice but to show off his wildness here. Of course, this was also because he had just confirmed that Prince Xian, who had rushed over from the Black Mosquito Star, had not entered the Demon Emperor planet through the intelligence gathering and analysis. That was why he dared to do so. Unfortunately, before the order to launch the second round of attacks had been issued, Naples had already seen a demon fortress suddenly appear in the distant void in front of him on the huge holographic three-dimensional screen in front of him. The other party was lucky. Originally, it was blocking the path of the death ray cannon shot from the flagship fortress under his feet. However, in the end, at the most critical moment, it gave up the maintenance of the concealment array formation and unleashed its full strength, narrowly avoiding the kiss of destruction of the death ray cannon's energy beam. Immediately after, Naples recognized this demon fortress. He had already investigated it thoroughly. Although there was no insignia on the ship, he was sure that this was the Saint. Damn it, I almost killed Prince Xian. Admiral Naples's expression changed drastically as he cried out in shock. Then, his body shook violently as he immediately issued a new order. His roar was like thunder. All fortresses, listen up. Surround him immediately. At the same time, activate the fortress-level space oscillation. Increase the power to the maximum. This time we must capture Xian alive. Pui, we must take our prince away safely. After we succeed, return immediately. Don't waste a second. With this new order, the previous battle order was automatically cancelled. Prince Xian's unexpected appearance, and he seemed to be right in the middle of the 5 fortresses. This was clearly the rhythm of a fish that had taken the initiative to dive into the net. Apart from such a pleasant surprise, everyone in the human fortress fleet, including Naples, had completely forgotten about the Demon Emperor planet at this moment. The only thought in their minds was to capture Prince Xian and take him away. Only Imperial Uncle Long Tianba, who was in the command cabin on the top floor of the flagship fortress with Naples, had an extremely gloomy expression. From time to time, a trace of sinister light flashed in the depths of his eyes. He was clearly shocked and extremely displeased. As for the purplish warbler, who was standing beside Naples, she had already nervously raised her jade-like hand to cover her mouth. In that instant just now, she was so shocked that her soul almost jumped out of her body. Soon, the 5 human fortresses, including the flagship fortress of Naples, rapidly approached from different directions. At the same time, they brought with them a series of buzzing sounds that were extremely fast in the void. Before the Saint ship could react, it was surrounded like a dumpling and fell into the encirclement of the 5 fortresses. The effect of the space oscillator at the level of a space fortress was not ordinary. Yi Xian, who was inside the Saint ship, instantly realized that his fortress could not move. Not only could it not perform a space jump, but it could not even sail in the waves that were at the heart of the storm. This was a true space restriction formed by the 5 space fortresses with a diameter of 100,000 meters, simultaneously activating the spaceship's giant space oscillator. Under such circumstances, an ordinary planetary battleship of 1,000 meters would probably be shaken until its hull collapsed and was destroyed. Faced with all this, Yi Xian's expression instantly darkened. He had decided to return to the 3rd universe and was even prepared to leave. But now he was completely surrounded by his own people. What the hell was this? Was this prince a rat crossing the street or a fish in the net? Chapter 3050. Return Rumble. Boom! Just as the Saint ship's space oscillator was activated to the maximum by the 5 human fortresses, it seemed to have sunk into a swamp and couldn't move at all. Thousands of miles away, in the direction of the Demon Imperial Star, a series of roars resounded, reverberating through the entire void. The demon dwellers weren't pushovers, not to mention that they were blocked at the gate of their imperial capital star, and launched a round of sneak attacks. The destruction of the Starry Sky defense system, which they had spent countless financial and material resources to set up, was a small matter, but the entire demon dwellers and the demon dwellers' royal family were a big matter. Demon Emperor Mo Wention definitely wouldn't let this go easily. In fact, the counterattack had already come at the first moment. Indeed, the demon dwellers didn't have any space fortresses with a diameter of 100,000 meters. Not to mention 5, they didn't even have one. They weren't good at the research and development of technology, so they weren't keen on it. Almost all the battleships were deployed by the Tianji clan. The demon dweller scouts looked no different from humans, so they were still very useful to the Tianji clan. However, it wasn't enough for the Tianji clan to easily open up the space fortresses, which were the ultimate strategic weapons of mass destruction. If the demon dwellers had any intention of rebelling, the Tianji clan would be restrained by them. Even so, the Tianji clan had deployed quite a number of cosmic and cosmic-level fortresses with a diameter of less than 100,000 meters. Of course, there weren't any of the 10 great foreign tribes. However, in the inner star fortresses of the 2 satellites that surrounded the Demon Imperial City, which were the Demon Guards 1 and 2, there were quite a number of these fortresses which were 20,000 meters and 50,000 meters wide, and they were always in a combat-ready state. Especially when the demon dweller's star area wasn't very peaceful recently. Last time Yixian saw a few cosmic-level fortresses with a diameter of 50,000 meters in the Demon Guard 1 star fortress, and that was only one of the star fortresses of the Demon Guard 1. Demon Guards 1 and Demon Guards 2 each had 5 star fortresses of the same level. Each star fortress had 3 cosmic-level fortresses, and 5 cosmic-level fortresses with a diameter of 20,000 meters. In total, the Demon Imperial Star had 30 cosmic-level fortresses with a diameter of 50,000 meters, and 50 cosmic-level fortresses with a diameter of 20,000 meters. As for the ordinary fortresses with a diameter of 10,000 meters, there were more than 100 of them at this moment. As the Demon Emperor Mo Wention was instantly enraged and gave the order, the 10 large star docks in the 2 Demon Human Emperor capital satellites were almost all mobilized. Almost 300 bastions, the smallest of which was at least 10,000 meters in diameter, swarmed out from the 2 moons like a swarm of locusts. They formed an enormous army of bastions and marched toward the 5 human strongholds with murderous intent. While they were still quite far away, some of the cosmic castles with a range of 50,000 meters had already begun to bombard them. One after another, super meteor cannon energy light beams with a diameter of 5,000 meters had already shot over with a loud rumble as if they were being fired in unison. At the same time, extremely far away in the other direction of the Black Mosquito Star Zone, an expert who had turned into an extreme stream of light suddenly came to a halt. Then, he quickly withdrew all of his aura and stood in the void. With a strange expression on his face, he paid close attention to what was happening in this direction. It was none other than the Mystic Light Realm beauty robot, Ying Tai, who had been accidentally shaken off by Naples a few days ago, and had been chasing after Yixian's footsteps all this time. According to the normal speed of a Mystic Light Realm expert, it would have taken them almost a day to reach here from the Black Mosquito Star using their physical body. However, Ying Tai had arrived earlier than expected. She must have used some kind of secret technique or method on the way. At this moment, the scene that unfolded in front of her shocked even her. But very soon, her attention was attracted by the besieged saint. A trace of unexpected light flashed in her eyes. Prince Xian was surrounded like a dumpling? This was too unexpected. That brat was very slippery. He was probably the reincarnation of a loach demon. Last time he had used some kind of method to instantly disappear and escape from her detection range. That was a very vast space, which meant that he definitely had some kind of special method. Unfortunately, he still fell for it this time. He would probably be forcibly brought back to the 3rd universe of the human race very soon. Thinking of this, Ying Tai's eyes immediately started to spin. In less than 2 seconds she seemed to have understood something. Her red lips parted slightly, and she laughed softly. After returning to the human race, he probably won't run around like this. It seems that my love as a butterfly is destined to not be in the 1st universe. Not only will my love be in the human race, but the place where my love will start will also be in the 3rd universe of the human race. However, since I suddenly appeared as his lover, I'm afraid that there are still some details that need to be arranged in advance. Therefore, I can't miss the trip to the everlasting dynasty. Darling, hurry home. I'll go back first and wait for you. It's really hard to imagine what kind of expression you'll have on your face when you return home and see that I've been waiting for you for half a day. Moreover, I'm so passionate with your royal relatives. I'm really looking forward to it. It's getting more and more interesting. Amidst her laughter, Ingtai silently turned and left. The direction she was heading was actually the wormhole entrance to the third universe of the human race, at the edge of the Black Mosquito starfield. Yixian was completely unaware of Ingtai's sudden plan. At this moment, he was already shocked by the large number of demon fortresses rumbling in the void thousands of miles away. Hundreds of bastions gathered together, half of which were 20,000 or 50,000 cosmos and universe class. It was a majestic sight. Yixian was shocked not because he was afraid or anything, but because he didn't want to expose the saint. Since the 5 space fortresses lying in ambush here didn't belong to the Tianji race, it meant that his identity hadn't been exposed yet. In that case, he had to conceal it. What if he still had to use this identity in the future? Once the saint was seen by the demon army and taken away, suspicious gazes would instantly converge on him. Luckily, the 5 starry sky fortresses around him were huge and they surrounded him tightly. They completely covered the saint's ship in the middle. As long as he put it away before the demon army arrived, his identity as the saint ship of the Black Mosquito tribe could still be preserved. With this thought in mind, Yixian, who had originally planned to be pretentious and show off his might as a prince to the commander of the human race fleet, immediately stepped out of the saint. With a wave of his hand, he kept the saint in the undying world within his body. At the same time, one of the 5 space fortresses around him, which was the flagship fortress of Naples, had an entrance to a passageway on the outer wall. This was clearly the prelude to opening the passageway to welcome Prince Xian's return. Humph! Yixian coldly snorted. He concealed his figure and stepped into the entrance of the passageway. In the next moment, his figure appeared on the command cabin on the top floor of the flagship stronghold. Everyone's eyes were filled with fervor as they gathered their gazes over, including the purplish warbler. Chapter 3051. Presumptuous, the purplish warbler laughed the moment he saw Yixian. Although his expression was normal, he was howling in grief in his heart. This day had finally come. Yixian had always been brooding over Lulua's death. Although it wasn't actually his fault, the fact that Lulua had died in front of him was something that couldn't be erased. Especially when Yixian had revealed the demonkin's mental strength to prove that he was a demonkin in order to deceive Ba Chai, who was the head scout of the Black Wind at the time. This had left a lingering sense of guilt in Yixian's heart. At that time, Lulua's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Her eyes were filled with despair, as if she had been deceived by someone she trusted. It was with this regretful feeling that she had been reduced to a mist of blood by Ba Chai's fist and perished from then on. He had never intended to avoid or shirk responsibility for this matter. He had always intended to explain clearly to the purplish warbler in the future, and let him deal with him as he pleased. He only wanted to be at ease. However, that could only be done in private, because this matter would expose many of Yixian's secrets, such as the fact that he possessed the demonkin's mental strength. Even though he had decided to return to the human race of the Third World, Yixian didn't intend to expose this fact to the Undying Dynasty. Therefore, Yixian really couldn't tell the truth in this situation where there were so many unrelated people present. If the purplish warbler suddenly asked, he could only stammer and delay for a while. When the two of them were alone, he would tell him everything. The problem was that when the purplish warbler had shouted at him, he had already mentioned this matter. Furthermore, he had suspiciously asked if Yixian had done something unspeakable to Lulu. Otherwise, why would he feel so guilty and run away the more he shouted? Now that they had met, if Yixian continued to stammer on this matter, the purplish warbler would definitely become even more suspicious. It would be troublesome if he made a scene here, however. What Yixian didn't expect was that just as he was feeling miserable and didn't know if all of this would really happen, and was wondering if he should quickly think of a way to divert Xianyuan Ziying's attention and temporarily avoid this matter, there was actually a person who took the initiative to jump out and help him out of this situation. "You're not Long Xian." With a shocked expression on his face, Imperial Uncle Long Tianba's eyes sparkled with a bright light. His gaze locked onto Yi Xian's face as he suddenly roared out these words. In an instant everyone was stunned, and the expressions on their faces changed rapidly. Some were suspicious, some were at a loss, and as for Xianyuan Ziying, even a wisp of dense uneasiness appeared in her eyes. Only now did she realize that as Prince Xian's uncle, Long Tianba must have seen Prince Xian before. Thus, as long as Yi Xian appeared, he would immediately discover the truth. At this moment, the purplish warbler's heart began to feel anxious. The Immortal Army's 3-star general Naples was stunned for a moment. He frowned slightly but didn't say anything. His gaze swept over Yi Xian's body, clearly indicating that he didn't want to interfere in this matter, and was going to watch from the sidelines for now. Yi Xian immediately sneered. He immediately pulled up the information related to this person from his devouring system. He had already expected this to happen. After all, his current appearance wasn't that of the Long Xian who was locked in the myriad hell at the bottom of the Black Wind. He didn't look like the Long Xian who was eaten by a 7-star general ladle because he had a big mouth. In reality, it was hard to confirm whether the Long Xian back then was the real Prince Xian. After all, he was still in the process of undergoing the immortal imperial family's ultimate trial. It was possible to change one's appearance, and the possibility was extremely high. As such, Yi Xian gave up on the idea of changing his appearance to Long Xian's, and simply showed his original appearance to others. Because of this, as soon as he stepped into this flagship fortress, he had already issued an order to the devouring system, asking the personal space communication system attached to the system to immediately connect to the main control center of this flagship and secretly steal all the necessary information. For example, the appearance of the immortal imperial family's members, their cultivation realms, their factions, and so on. As such, he immediately found out Long Tianba's identity as soon as he flipped through the information, including the fact that he supported the second prince, Long Shumian. He also found out that Prince Xian was ranked 18th among the direct descendants of the immortal imperial family, and that he didn't usually get along with Long Tianba's royal uncle. Of course, some of the information wasn't directly recorded in the database of this flagship fortress. However, the system had the ability to analyze data. With the power of the devouring system, it was obviously very easy for it to analyze the relevant information. As such, Yi Xian was immediately certain. A cold smile of ridicule flashed across his face. He glanced at the suspicious Long Tianba and laughed. "Oh, isn't this royal Uncle Tianba? The chances of seeing you here are even lower than seeing a ghost. Could it be that after second brother died, royal uncle had no choice but to take a liking to me, old 18th? That's truly a blessing from the heavens." A few simple words were enough to point out that Long Tianba supported the second prince, Long Shumian. Even among the upper echelons of the immortal imperial family, there were many people who didn't know about this. After all, this kind of internal strife and competition within the immortal imperial family was usually carried out in secret and couldn't be made public. Even Naples, a 3-star general of the Immortal Army, had only found out about this secret half a day ago through a top-secret document in the ship's data center, after he led his troops into the First Universe again, and had the opportunity to temporarily command this 100,000-meter-wide starry fortress. Thus, when Yi Xian said this, the faint suspicion in Naples' eyes instantly disappeared without a trace. If it wasn't the real Prince Xian, how could he know about this? This imperial uncle Long Tianba Long must have reprimanded Prince Xian because he had changed his appearance. He must have been out of his mind. Could it be that Prince Xian was still using his original appearance in the final trial? This time, the old man took the initiative to ask to represent the royal family to come to the First Universe with him. He probably didn't have good intentions at all. After all, Prince Xian's reputation had spread greatly, and he already posed a threat to the second prince, whom he supported. When he thought of this, Naples' expression immediately darkened. If the other party wanted to deal with Prince Xian, that would be making an enemy out of him. He was still hoping to curry favor with Prince Xian and have a meteoric rise. And now the opportunity to express his goodwill to Prince Xian had clearly arrived. Just as Naples was secretly delighted and was about to take this opportunity to say something, whether or not he would offend the royal uncle Long Tianba, he had to let Prince Xian feel his goodwill. Chapter 3052. What is his cultivation? Impudent. As this shout rang out, A vast and boundless aura instantly spread out from within Long Tianba's body. He had actually unleashed his origin first-level cultivation in a fit of anger. He was clearly putting on the airs of an elder in order to give Yi Xian a warning. Before this, the reason why Long Tianba had yelled out "You're not Long Xian" was because of his intuition. How could Long Tianba not have thought about the fact that Long Xian would change his appearance in the final trial? However, the 18th prince had always been the weakest of the 18 princes of the immortal imperial family. He was always timid and afraid of trouble. Because of this, he was the only one among the 18 princes who didn't have the support of the other members of the imperial family. He only had an old mother and an old servant who had never left him. Normally, when Long Xian saw his imperial uncle on the undying star of the imperial capital, he would nod his head and bow, respectfully flattering him to the point of no return. But just now when Yi Xian arrived, his gaze clearly swept across the entire top-floor command cabin, taking in everyone's figures. He directly ignored his imperial uncle, and didn't have any reaction at all. It was because of this, as well as the fact that Yi Xian's current appearance wasn't Long Xian's original appearance, that Long Tianba became suspicious. However, this suspicion instantly disappeared after hearing Yi Xian's words. Long Tianba's thoughts were the same as Naples'. If the person in front of him wasn't the real Long Xian, how could he know all this? However, it was also because he was certain that Yi Xian was Prince Xian that the anger in his heart suddenly exploded. In the past, this brat would nod his head and kowtow whenever he saw him. Now that he had gotten a bit of a fake reputation, he actually acted like a petty person who had gotten his way in the blink of an eye. He didn't even respect his imperial uncle, and dared to mock him in front of everyone. Long Tianba was already used to Long Xian's weakness and flattery. How could he adapt to this sudden change? That was why he flew into a rage, and even revealed the aura of his origin realm cultivation. His goal was to intimidate the other party. At the same time, it was also a form of probing. This was also the reason why he had taken the initiative to request to represent the immortal royal family in coming to the first universe. If Prince Xian were to be frightened by him and cower in an instant, then no matter how great his reputation was or how popular he was, he would not be a cause for concern. He was just a piece of mud that could not be supported. There was no need to pay attention to him. However, if the other party's performance was anything else, regardless of whether it was tough or feigning civility, it could at least explain one thing. The ultimate trial this time had indeed changed Prince Xian. Regardless of whether this change was good or bad, they had to treat it seriously when they returned. After all, with Prince Xian's current reputation, he posed a threat to all the other princes. Yi Xian was unaware of all of this, and he was too lazy to think about it. He only knew one thing. He was now a prince, and a very popular one at that. Since he was a prince, it was only natural for him to be a little foppish and arrogant. Although the person in front of him was the imperial uncle, from the perspective of potential, the so-called imperial court might not be as important as having a prince who was currently popular. He no longer had the chance to sit on the throne of Huang Xiao. He had already lost in the battle for the throne. However, a popular prince was different. Who dared to say that he would definitely not be the next immortal emperor? Even if a popular prince were to have a conflict with an imperial uncle, the former would definitely be the more confident one. If the matter were to really blow up, the other party would only be able to put on the airs of an elder. Nothing else could be done about it. Of course, if he wanted to fight, just being popular wasn't enough. He had to have true strength, and this was something that Yi Xian wasn't lacking in. Because of this, when Yi Xian saw Long Tianba reveal his cultivation aura in an attempt to intimidate him with his cultivation, he immediately sneered. He casually waved his hand and curled his lips. Yo, I was wondering why Imperial Uncle Tianba was so awesome. After all this time, you actually managed to break through. I remember that before we left the Imperial capital, you were only at the peak of the 9th rank black hole, right? You're already at the 1st rank of the origin. No wonder you're so cocky. TSK. This is the 1st rank of the origin. It's very powerful. It's already on par with this prince's pet. Screech! Before Yi Xian could finish speaking, a sharp howl filled with a vicious and brutal aura resounded in the vast space of the main control room on the top floor of the Starry Sky stronghold. Just now, with a wave of his hand, Yi Xian directly summoned the Bloodbin Prince from the Beast Ring. He also secretly ordered it to unleash its full cultivation and reveal its aura, but not to launch any attacks. At this moment, at the same time that the blood-bend prince let out this howl, his body was also suspended in front of Yi Xian under the vibration of the pair of blood-colored wings on his back. His eyes flickered with a crazy and brutal blood-colored light, and it was obvious that he could charge out at any time. Moreover, judging from the monstrous crazy and cruel aura emitted from its body, as long as it attacked, it would definitely be a fight to the death. Blood Mosquito Beast? This is the Mosquito Beast royalty? And it's actually at the Origin Realm? How is this possible? As a 3-star general of the Immortal Army, Naples had the authority to access some of the Army's confidential information. The Immortal Army had entered the First Universe many times to fight the Tianji race and their servants, so they obviously had a good understanding of the situation here. For example, there was some important information about the Mosquito Beast planet in the Immortal Army's confidential database. Therefore, Naples could see through the origins of the Blood-Ben at a glance. Although he didn't know the identity of the Mosquito Beast Emperor, he at least knew that this Origin Realm Blood-Red Mosquito Beast had a certain amount of the Mosquito Beast royalty's bloodline flowing in its body. As his cry of surprise entered everyone's ears, whether it was Long Tianba, the Purplish Warbler, or the other army officers in the command cabin on the top floor of the Starry Sky Fortress, without exception, all of their expressions changed drastically. They were all shocked. Mosquito Beast royalty? It had actually become Prince Xian's beast pet? And its cultivation was actually at the Origin Realm? Even though all of this had happened right before their eyes, they still didn't dare to believe it. It was too surreal. Prince Xian's beast pet was already at the terrifying Origin Realm first level, just like the heavenly tyrant imperial uncle who had been slapped in the face. Then what about his own cultivation? This Mosquito Beast royalty's beast pet had clearly been subdued by him. From the looks of it, the current Prince Xian was at least at the Origin Realm second level, right? This is impossible. You were clearly only at the Star Realm when you left the dynasty. At this moment, Long Tianba's entire face had turned red, and even his neck had swelled up. Yi Xian had already used the mental power of a demon to conceal his cultivation. Let alone him, even Naples, who was at the 11th level of the Mystic Light Realm, couldn't detect his cultivation. Therefore, at this moment, he was actually inclined to believe that Yi Xian's cultivation was already above his. Chapter 3053. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios Naples Gesture of Goodwill's Starry Star Realm? That's the 5th major realm. My imperial uncle, can you stop mocking your nephew? I'm only at the 8th satellite realm, the 3rd major realm. You're clearly mocking this prince. Amidst his strange words, Yi Xian withdrew his concealment of his cultivation and blocked the probing of his spiritual sense. The true aura of a satellite 8-order cultivator within his body was instantly revealed. He was clearly doing this on purpose. Everyone in the surroundings had strange expressions on their faces. Yi Xian was indeed doing this on purpose, but the meaning of the word on purpose was completely different from what it meant to the others. Yi Xian's intention was a lie. His cultivation was indeed at the 8th satellite realm. This was his biggest flaw. Prince Xian's cultivation wasn't at this level. With such a low cultivation, Prince Xian definitely wouldn't have been able to accomplish such a shocking feat after returning to the immortal planet. Yi Xian wouldn't be able to hide his cultivation forever no matter how much he tried to conceal it. However, now that he was doing this on purpose, news of this would definitely spread. When that time came, even if Yi Xian revealed his true cultivation on certain occasions, no one would believe him. Just like now with Prince Shueben laying the groundwork, Yi Xian's claim of being at the 8th satellite realm and the aura of his true cultivation fell into the eyes of everyone, including Naples, and instantly became a form of deliberate mockery and a slap in the face. It was clearly aimed at Long Tianba. In any case, no one believed that the aura of his current cultivation was real. Even the Purplish Warbler was confused. She started to doubt everything she'd been so sure of. At this moment, she even started to wonder if she'd been tricked by Yi Xian from the start. Could this guy really be Prince Xian? He'd even concealed his cultivation otherwise. How could he know the secrets of the imperial family that even she didn't know about? What did he have to subdue a member of the Origin first-level mosquito imperial family? The ferocious aura of this mosquito beast was obvious at a glance. In addition to its pride as a member of the royal mosquito family, It was impossible to subdue it unless it was forcefully suppressed with overwhelming strength. From the looks of it, even the second level of the origin realm would not be enough. One would have to be at least 3 or 4 levels stronger than the origin realm. If that was the case, wouldn't this Prince Xian be at least at the 4th level of the origin realm? When this thought flashed through her mind, even the purplish warbler herself was shocked. She was only in the black hole realm, so her face was a little red in comparison. At the same time, the purplish warbler's heart was filled with resentment. He looked at Yi Xian with hostility in his eyes. "Bad guy, you tricked me so badly. You're obviously the real Prince Xian, and your cultivation is so strong, yet you made me worry about you for so long. You're so bad." Thinking of this, the purplish warbler couldn't help but clench her fists. She was certain of one thing. "I'll definitely make him pay for this when I get back." Right at this moment, Imperial Uncle Long Tianba spoke up once again. "Long Xian, what a good Long Xian. Prince Xian, what a good Long Xian. I have to admit that the ultimate trial this time has indeed allowed you to be reborn. How gratifying. The current you actually dares to treat your imperial uncle like this. Very good, very good. Apart from me, Long Tianba, I'm sure that your imperial brothers and the other members of the imperial family, and even the entire immortal imperial family, will be very happy to see you change so much. Long Xian, they're all waiting for you on the immortal star. Ha ha." A cold light flashed through Long Tianba's eyes as he laughed. He coldly harumphed, then turned around and walked back to his own cabin. He had already decided that he wouldn't meet this guy again before returning to the immortal star. Since he couldn't suppress this guy with his cultivation anymore, and the other party had changed from his usual weak and easy-to-bully personality, why should he continue to look for trouble? After all, once he returned to the immortal star, the other princes would naturally deal with him. They wouldn't sit by and watch such a powerful Prince Xian grow so quickly. Following Long Tianba's departure, his 2 trusted subordinates quickly followed after him. There were no longer any of his people in the command center of the huge flagship fortress. Apart from the purplish warbler, the other 100 or so officers were all Naples' trusted aides. "General, we've arrived at the wormhole. Should we immediately enter and jump through the wormhole to return to the Graveyard Star region?" Right at this moment, a trusted aide with the rank of senior colonel on his shoulder quickly walked over. While reporting the situation to General Naples, he also took the opportunity to look at Yi Xian and give him a friendly smile. Ever since Yi Xian stepped into the flagship fortress, all 5 human intergalactic fortresses started to jump through space at the same time. They were all moving at full speed towards the wormhole that led to the depths of the Graveyard Star region, at the edge of the first universe. Now they had already arrived. As for the army of intergalactic fortresses sent out from the Demon Emperor planet, although they did chase after them, they were just bluffing and putting on an act. At this moment they had long been left behind. Enter the wormhole immediately and jump through space to return to the first universe as soon as possible. General Naples immediately gave a new order. After arriving at the Graveyard Star region, connect to the Sky River Stars intergalactic network immediately. Also, connect to the Heavenly Underworld Stars intergalactic network. Go up layer by layer until you reach the immortal star. Immediately report the news of Prince Xian's safe return to the dynasty. After that, we will rush to the Sky River Star and stay there for a while. A large number of the prince's fans in the entire Federation will be waiting for him there. Since the prince has returned, we naturally need to go to the Sky River Star and appease these fans of the Federation. This will also be good for the prince's reputation. Naples was obviously saying these words to Yi Xian. He had already turned to look at the latter with a smile on his face. His tone had become much gentler, and it was clearly a strong show of goodwill. "Your Highness, this old servant is Naples. It was also this old servant who led the fleet into the Demon Emperor Star region last time. Fortunately, I didn't let you down. This time, I finally brought the prince back to the first universe safely. Otherwise, if I failed again, I wouldn't have the face to see Jiangdong's father again. I can only die to apologize to the world. Does your Highness have anything to add to this old servant's arrangement just now? The reason we are going to the Sky River Star is to give the dynasty on the Immortal Star some time to prepare. With your Highness's current reputation in the Federation, this time, The dynasty will definitely hold a grand welcoming ceremony for your return. Your Highness will also need some time to prepare for the necessary things. General Naples, is it? Good. Very good. This prince is very satisfied. Chapter 3054. Translator. Nayarbo Studio Editor. Nayarbo Studio Old Nath 5 Immortal Army Star Fortresses all entered the wormhole and began a planar space jump. After about a day, they would arrive at the border of the third universe of the human race, which was the graveyard of the graveyard. At this point, all the soldiers in the fortress fleet were relieved. This time they entered the first universe with the intention of fighting to the death. They didn't expect that in the end it was as if they were here to claim credit. Before they even saw the enemy, they casually fired a cannon. Then they saw Prince Xian. They brought him along and started the return journey. With Prince Xian's safe return, they would all become heroes and would definitely achieve military merits. The immortal army of the human race's technology camp had entered the first universe many times to fight the Tianji race and their slave races. This time it was probably the easiest and most comfortable time to claim merits. It was precisely because of this that all of the soldiers in the 5 space fortresses of the entire fleet were grateful to Prince Xian Yixian. In this kind of era of space warfare, it wasn't easy to obtain military merits. The first time they met Prince Xian, they encountered such a good thing. This made them believe that Prince Xian was their lucky star. In addition, Yixian and Imperial Uncle Long Tianba had a tit-for-tat confrontation in the command cabin on the top floor of the Star Fortress. Soon, all the soldiers in the Star Fortress knew about this through the communication between the Star Fortresses. Almost all of them had realized that Prince Xian was about to rise. Thus, almost all of them had the same thoughts as Naples. At this time, it was obvious that there would be benefits in the future if they stood on the side of a popular prince who was gaining power. At this time, Yixian didn't know that he had unknowingly obtained the loyalty of all the commanding officers and soldiers in the 5-star fortresses. This situation was even more obvious in the command cabin on the top floor of the Star Fortress where Yixian was at. Although the hundreds of immortal army soldiers controlling the Star Fortresses were at their respective posts, they weren't in battle mode at this time. Moreover, they were performing a planar space jump. There weren't many things that they needed to do manually. Therefore, while these soldiers were guarding their posts, their gazes would occasionally converge on the resting area in the center of the command cabin. His eyes were burning with passion. It wasn't like Yixian hadn't experienced the feeling of being the center of attention before. For example, after he became the Black Mosquito Tribe's saint, he felt the same way during the saint ceremony. However, at that time they were behind enemy lines, and the Demonkin Imperial family's fleet was about to arrive. Yixian naturally couldn't relax completely, so he didn't feel too strongly at that time. But now it was different. With all the danger gone, his entire body and mind relaxed. At this moment, when he felt the fanatical gazes directed at him from all directions, he immediately sighed with emotion. Power was indeed a good thing. Ever since he entered the starry sky realm, he had always been tense. This time he could take advantage of the opportunity to act as Prince Xian and show off. Anyway, as a popular prince of the empire, being too low-key would make people suspicious. Even if he was a bit of a profligate, it was also for the sake of his role. Thinking of this, Yixian felt more and more at ease. The arrogance on his face didn't recede at all. It was obvious that he had found the rhythm to it. However, although this appearance was natural in the eyes of everyone else, and it would be strange if it wasn't like this, in the eyes of Xin Yuanzing, it made her so angry that the roots of her teeth itched. At this moment, she was already sure that Yixian was the real Prince Xian. This guy had tricked her so hard. When she returned, she would definitely find a chance to teach him a lesson. Your Highness, there's one thing that this old subject must ask for your forgiveness. At this moment, because they were already on their way back, there were no more accidents. Therefore, even Naples relaxed. He ordered someone to bring over some spiritual wine. After sitting down with Yixian in the central resting area of the command cabin, he carefully poured a few cups. Apart from Yixian, only he and the purplish warbler had a share. The other confidants, who carried the rank of colonel or major general, didn't even have the right to sit. They all carefully stood behind Naples. What are you guys standing around for? The other brothers have their duties and can't leave now. Anyway, you guys have nothing to do. Sit down and drink together. Yixian waved his hand and interrupted Naples' words. He looked up at the several colonels and major generals standing behind Naples. At the same time, his right hand made a circle and pointed at the ship control soldiers who were at their respective posts. Brothers. Everyone was stunned, and then they became excited. The prince was indeed amiable. He was too approachable. It was rare for him to be in such a position. He had countless fans in the entire Federation. This was clearly using virtue to win people over. In an instant, some of the soldiers who were more easily moved even had their eyes turn red. The colonels and major generals standing behind Naples were even more excited. They looked at Naples and saw him nod in laughter. Only then did they sit down in excitement. They each took a glass of wine, but they didn't drink. All of them looked at Yi Xian with burning eyes full of admiration. At this time, Yi Xian turned his head to look at Naples. "Oh right, Sir General, you didn't finish speaking just now. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt." The latter was instantly terrified and almost stood up. "Prince, how could this old official dare to let you use honorifics? You can just call me Old Na, okay? Old Na. Asterisk, whatever." Yi Xian almost burst out laughing. He rolled his eyes and nodded. "That's fine. You guys don't have to call me Prince in the future. I'm not as old as you guys. Just call me Prince Xian. We're all on the same side, so it's a little more intimate." This was the first time Yi Xian had publicly said that Naples was one of his own people. In a battle between factions in the imperial court, such words were equivalent to accepting the surrender of Naples and the others. "Prince Xian, this old official is ashamed. Last time I chased you all over the place. In the end, I had no choice but to escape into the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb. At that time I wasn't scared out of my wits. Only then did I realize that you must have some extremely important plan to carry out, so it wasn't convenient for you to come into contact with us. Fortunately, Prince Xian, your lucky star shines upon you. However, this old official must admit that I'm wrong. That matter." Yi Xian was indeed a little angry at the mention of that matter. However, the matter was already over, and he had profited from a disaster. There was no need to be too calculative. As such, he waved his hand and casually said, "It's fine. Actually, you cooperated with my plan. If you hadn't, I'm afraid that I wouldn't have been able to lure the Tianji race's Starry Sky Fortress into the Starry Sky Thunder Tomb. This way, this prince wouldn't have been able to destroy it in the end. Fortunately, everything was done." Huh? Chapter 3055. Translator. Nyobo Studio Editor. Nyobo Studio Satellite Level 9 Perfection. Your Highness, you're saying that your plan back then was to lure the Tianji race's interstellar fortress into the astral lightning graveyard and then kill it? After being stunned for a few seconds, Naples swallowed his saliva and finally spoke. As he spoke, the corners of his eyes twitched. "And you even succeeded?" In fact, it wasn't just him. Several other colonel and major general level staff officers who were also sitting on the side had similar expressions at this time. All of this was too inconceivable. It was simply impossible. They suddenly had a feeling that this Prince Xian in front of them seemed to like bragging. The purplish warbler even rolled his eyes. He didn't believe him at all. Yi Xian saw all of this, but he didn't care. Furthermore, he revealed this information on purpose. With the headless infant corpse and the remaining 9 Thunder Origin Pearls as his trump cards, the Tianji race's interstellar fortress was no longer of much use to Yi Xian. At the very least, it no longer had the qualifications to be used as a trump card. When they returned to the human race this time, they were bound to fall into a factional struggle between the immortal dynasties. If they encountered any danger and needed it, Yi Xian wouldn't hesitate to use this Tianji race's interstellar fortress that he had obtained so cheaply. As such, he brought this matter up now as a precaution. He didn't want to suddenly take out a Tianji race's interstellar fortress in the future and arouse suspicion. In reality, it wasn't just this interstellar fortress. He didn't even plan to hide the existence of the Mosquito Beast army and the Soldier Ladle army. As a precaution, he revealed everything first. After all, no one would believe him now. However, when Yi Xian really used it, they would be able to recall what Yi Xian had just said. At that time, he would have less time to hide. He didn't plan to hide too much of these forces. After all, they weren't his trump cards. His true trump cards were the Headless Infant Corpse and the Thunder Origin Pearls, as well as the Heaven Falling Bow ability, the Rai D Seal, and a few other supreme treasures. Oh right, there was also the Longyi battleship. It was a pity that it had not fully developed yet. Of course there was still a final trump card, and that was the interstellar coordinate jump. However, in the first universe, Yi Xian had not imprinted his own coordinates yet. That was something that could be used to escape. When he found a suitable location later, he would deal with this matter first. However, as soon as Naples finished speaking, Yi Xian waved his hand and casually said, "That's right. There was only one member of the Heaven's Legacy race in that interstellar fortress. He was a mystic light realm cultivator, and he was killed by me in less than a minute after he walked out of the fortress. Then I took that fortress. Right now, this prince not only has 2 demonic dweller scout fortresses with a diameter of 10,000 meters, but also a Heaven's Legacy race fortress with a diameter of 100,000 meters. All of them are private armies and have nothing to do with the imperial court. Don't worry, just follow this daddy's orders. In the future, those princes of mine will be like chopping vegetables. Sooner or later, they will all be taken care of by me. Furthermore, this prince also has an army of mosquito beasts. Who can stop 1,000,000 mosquito beasts? I also have an army of 10,000 void-swallowing beasts. Even if a fleet comes, it will be wiped clean. Furthermore, I have plenty of demonic dweller slaves. I have several thousand-man demonic slave armies, and they are all in the 2 demonic dweller scout fortresses. They are all extremely loyal. In short, I don't lack manpower or resources. You just need to follow this daddy's orders." When Yi Xian said this, Naples and the others' faces were already cramping. They knew about the mosquito beasts, but they knew even more about the void-swallowing beasts. Yi Xian said that he had an army of 1,000,000 mosquito beasts, and he even had 10,000 of those terrifying void-swallowing beasts that could eat battleships as if they were vegetables? This was a bit too much of a braggart. Furthermore, what the hell were demonic dweller slaves? He actually used the term demonic slave army, and he even mentioned a 1,000-man demonic slave army, and there were several of them. Demonic dwellers being slaves was something that had never happened before in history. Admittedly, there were demonic dweller spies that were bought over by the human race, but to say that they were slaves was simply wishful thinking. Prince Xian did have some impressive methods. For example, he was actually able to infiltrate the demonic dwellers and climb to the high position of the holy son of a large foreign tribe. He was also able to steal 2 of the enemy's scout fortresses and use them for himself. These were all facts and they also believed it. After all, it wasn't too hard to accept. However, everything that was said now was a bit too exaggerated. Everyone was certain that Yi Xian was bragging. If they were to find out that Yi Xian's data was rather reserved, they would probably faint on the spot from fright. He didn't have 1,000,000 mosquito beasts army, but 10 million. The void-swallowing beasts were also an army of soldiers. He didn't have 10,000 but 100,000. He didn't have a 1,000-man demonic slave army but 10. If Yi Xian were to display all of this in front of everyone, probably not many people would dare to believe him. This was also the reason why he deliberately said it at this moment. Anyway, no one would believe him even if he said it. He could also set a foundation in advance for when he used these powers that should not belong to a human in the future. Why not? For the next day, Yi Xian had been hiding in his cabin. He had no choice. He wasn't mentally prepared to explain the Lulua incident to the purplish warbler. The key was that the situation wasn't suitable. If the purplish warbler were to make a fuss, it wouldn't be good with so many people around. Therefore, he could only find an excuse to hide in his cabin and not show himself. Even if it was the Starry Sky stronghold, it would take a long time to jump through a wormhole of this level. In order to be safe, an entire day would be spent on the journey. Yi Xian hid in his own cabin by himself. Since he had nothing to do, he started cultivating. The battle between the royal family factions was about to unfold in the human race's technology faction. Although all of this had nothing to do with him, Yi Xian had no choice but to be dragged into it because he wanted to use his identity as Prince Xian to search for the devouring origin source. Therefore, he urgently needed to raise his cultivation level. With this thought in mind, Yi Xian took out a large amount of Star Core origin source again and started to cultivate. Perhaps it was because he threw in another level 99 colored Star Core origin source, but in a short day, he advanced by a small level again. After this round of cultivation ended, the familiar notification of the devouring system sounded out in Yi Xian's mind once again, causing his heart to tremble. Ding! Congratulations to the hosts for leveling up. Current level. Satellite Realm Level 9 Perfection. Level 9 Perfection. With another small level increase, he would be able to enter the fourth major realm, the planet realm. Yixian was extremely excited. Chapter 3056. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. 10,000 people turn out after Naples returned from the first universe for the first time. He had already reported to the dynasty that Prince Xian was still alive and fighting alone in the demon territory of the first universe. In order to appease the prince's fans, the Immortal Dynasty immediately publicized this news. At that time, the entire Immortal Dynasty was in an uproar. A large number of the prince's fans rushed over from other sectors of the first universe. Even many experts from other races of the Federation in the second universe came. After all, the Federation's contribution rankings could be seen everywhere. As long as it was an administrative planet of the Myriad Luo Federation, there would be a platform for the Federation's affairs. After learning that Prince Xian was still alive, and like a true lone hero, he had infiltrated deep into the enemy's rear and was fighting alone in the first universe's devil domain, these fans of the prince all rushed to the Sky River sector, and the waves of support grew louder and louder. Speaking of the best heroes and idols of this era, no one would dare to compete with Prince Xian for the limelight in the current situation. Immediately after, the 5 immortal human dynasties' starry fortresses arrived in the graveyard sector and entered the wormhole that led to the first universe. All the prince's fans in the graveyard sector cheered. After this, the entire Sky River sector was about to explode. 5 starry fortresses. If they still couldn't bring Prince Xian back from the first universe, the dynasty would lose all face. As such, almost everyone was certain that Prince Xian would definitely return to the human race with the 5 strongholds in the near future. More and more fans of the prince came over after hearing the news. In the crowded Sky River sector by Zhangjun and Zhao Long, the 2 military and political commanders of the Sky River sector, were both excited and scared at the same time. They couldn't describe what they were feeling. They were excited because Prince Xian had finally lived up to their expectations. Now the entire Myriad Luo Federation and the Tianji clan of the first universe had even issued a warrant for his arrest in the first universe. If Prince Xian could return safely this time, he would become the first human in history to successfully return to the third universe under the Tianji clan's arrest warrant in the first universe. That's right. Every wanted target in the first universe had fallen in the first universe. The Tianji clan's first universe's arrest warrant would not list important human figures who were not in the first universe at that time. Otherwise, the current immortal emperor's importance would be far greater than Prince Xian's. However, he did not attract the arrest warrant of the first universe. Every important figure of the human clan who was wanted in the first universe. Under such circumstances, it was obviously very difficult for them to come back alive. No one in history had ever succeeded. After they had all died, they had become famous in the 3 great universes. As for Prince Xian, he was the only hero who had returned to the human race, alive despite being wanted by the first universe. There was almost no suspense as to how brilliant his official career would be. After all, Bai Zhangjun and Zhao Long had expressed their goodwill in front of Prince Xian before this, so they still had some feelings for him. To them, this was an opportunity to achieve meteoric success, and it was already right in front of them. The reason why the 2 of them were trembling in fear was naturally because of the existence of the purplish warbler. When Prince Xian had fallen into the hands of the demon army's black wind, they had attacked the purplish warbler to prevent the news from leaking out and implicating themselves. However, the other party had used the Xianyuan family's protective secret treasure to escape. Not long ago, when the Neapolitan fleet had first arrived, the purplish warbler had appeared and almost scared Bai Zhangjun and Zhao Long to death on the spot. In the end, the purplish warbler had probably been concerned about Prince Xian's safety and did not pay attention to the 2 of them. Since then, the purplish warbler had always been with the Neapolitan admiral. This was the second time she had entered the first universe. If she returned with Prince Xian and had the time to spare, would she bring up the old matter again and settle the old score with them? Regarding this, Bai Zhangjun and Zhao Long were really unsure. At this time, the 2 of them were gathered in Bai Zhangjuan's official residence. Thinking about this matter, they both sighed sorrowfully. At this time, an old housekeeper of the planet manager's official residence rushed in with a face full of excitement. Before he arrived, His excited cheers had already traveled into the hall. Planet Manager. Prince Xian has returned. The Neapolitan fleet has just sent a message and requested to use the Heavenly River Planet Star Network to connect to the network of the Heavenly Underworld Nation. They have already left the wormhole and are rushing here. What? That's great. Release the news immediately. Let's hope that the scene of thousands of people coming out to welcome Prince Xian can divert the attention of that girl from the Xianyuan family. Whether she soars to the top or falls to the bottom, it all depends on today. Bai Zhengjun and Zhao Long immediately stood up in shock and immediately gave the order. At the same time, the two of them immediately rushed out of Bai Zhengjun's official residence and began to organize people to go outside the Great Star Array to arrange the welcoming party. The return of a figure like Prince Xian was a big matter for the entire Myriad Luo Federation. Bai Zhengjun and Zhao Long were the first princes to return to the human race. All the official preparations were being watched by countless people. No matter what, they could not allow anyone to criticize them. What's more, they were also nervous in their hearts. They only hoped that the next step would be perfect, and that they could resolve the life and death crisis that could befall them at any time. In short, for this welcoming ceremony, Bai Zhengjun and Zhao Long jumped up and down, using all the tricks they had up their sleeves and giving it their all. The news spread quickly, and the entire Sky River sector was in an uproar. A large number of powerful cultivators from the Federation in the nearby sectors rushed over like crazy. Some of the prince's fans who were originally on the Sky River planet went outside the Great Star Array. They wanted to be the first to see the hero walking out of the Starry Sky Fortress. More people stayed on the Sky River planet, eagerly waiting. After all, since Prince Xian had returned to the Sky River planet, he would definitely enter the inner part of the planet. If they stayed, they would still be able to see Prince Xian himself. It was also at this moment that, on the platform of all the administrative planets of the Myriad Luo Federation, including the Sky River planet, there was a crazy change in the data of the Federation's contribution points, the Heaven, Earth, and Human rankings. Everyone who saw this scene with their own eyes was completely petrified. The change in the data of the rankings this time was even crazier and more shocking than when Prince Xian easily rushed into the Earth rankings twice. This time, Prince Xian actually rushed into the top 100 rankings in one go. Moreover, it was in less than a minute. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed it. In fact, even though they saw it with their own eyes, everyone still felt as if they were in a dream. It was too abnormal. Chapter 3057. Translator. Nayerbo Studio Editor. Nayerbo Studio Crazy Points Earth Leaderboard. Rank 999. Yi Xian. Level 8 Meteor Realm. Interstellar Mercenary Serial Number. The 1314880. Current Federation Contribution Points. 176878943, 30 million. The above was the contribution points of Yi Xian as an interstellar mercenary of the Federation that had been displayed at the bottom of the Federation Earth leaderboard ever since he left the third universe. This data had not changed for a very long time. The data was collected by the Virtual Interstellar Mercenary card, which was tied together with the virtual identity card of a Federation citizen, and branded into the primordial spirit of every Federation citizen. Once this interstellar mercenary had a harvest, the Virtual Interstellar Mercenary card branded into his primordial spirit would be appraised. At the same time, after calculating the contribution points, it would send out some kind of signal that would be received by the Myriad Luo Federation's main interstellar network. Immediately after, the main interstellar network would feed this data back to the database. If the amount of data had reached a level where it could cause the rankings of the three leaderboards to change, then the Federation's main interstellar network would immediately send out a signal to the Federation's affairs halls in all the administrative planets of the Myriad Luo Federation to adjust the leaderboard data. However, the main interstellar network signal of the Federation could only cover the third universe. Even the second universe, which also belonged to the Myriad Luo Federation, was one step slower in terms of data transmission. As for the first universe, which was controlled by the Tianji race, it was needless to say. To the Federation's interstellar network, that was a blank area. The Tianji race would never allow the Myriad Luo Federation's main interstellar network to extend its tentacles there. Therefore, once an interstellar mercenary entered the first universe, the virtual identity card of a Federation citizen branded into his primordial spirit, as well as the virtual identity card of the interstellar mercenary, would temporarily fall into a deep sleep. Although the data was constantly being collected and appraised, it could only be temporarily stored. Once they returned to the third universe or the second universe, this data would be fed back to the Federation's main interstellar network. Yixian was currently in such a situation. This time he had gone to the first universe where the Tianji race was and done many big things in the demon domain. Killing a large number of devilish beings and subduing a large number of devilish beings into devilish slaves were just a small part of his income. Entering the Saint Devil forbidden land of the demonic emperor planet was a great source of income. After all, the multi-pupil thought crystal was a resource that the human race did not have. Even though it had fallen into the hands of Yixian, wasn't Yixian's growth also an increase in the strength of the human race? Therefore, these were also counted into the Federation's contribution points. There was also the harvest of the Mosquito Beast Army and the Soldier Ladle Army, as well as the points obtained from obtaining the ship of the Holy Sun and killing a large number of evil slimes within it. There was also the fact that the Heavenly Legacy race had issued an arrest warrant for the first universe, but he had safely returned to the human race. This great achievement had given all the experts of the Federation an invisible boost in points. Apart from that, the relic of the human race's technological pioneer, Xingbo, the Life Fortress, had also returned. There was also the harvest of the butterfly transformation, as well as the points obtained from killing a mystic light realm expert of the Heavenly Legacy race. When Yixian had succeeded in the first universe, all of this had been recorded by the Federation Interstellar Mercenary card imprinted in his primordial soul. The points had been calculated, but they had always been stored away. However, at this moment as Yixian returned to the third universe, the Federation Interstellar Mercenary card imprinted in his primordial soul once again connected with the Federation's main interstellar network. Therefore, all of the points and contribution points were fed back at once. This directly caused Yixian's contribution points and basic data to skyrocket. Of course, the Federation Interstellar Mercenary card would only feed back the contribution points and some basic data, such as Yixian's cultivation progress and so on. However, the Federation Interstellar Mercenary card would not feed back how the contribution points were obtained, who they killed, and what they obtained. This was also a secret method. Otherwise, wouldn't any Federation expert be monitored no matter what they did? Even if these things were only fed back to the Federation's main interstellar network and would not be publicly disclosed, some people still had the right to access the confidential data and information on the Federation's main interstellar network. If these things were recorded, it would obviously cause people to feel uneasy. Therefore, all of the Federation Interstellar Mercenary cards would not feed back this information. This was already a consensus. The moment Yixian's flagship fortress charged out of the wormhole, the Federation Mercenary card imprinted in his primordial soul once again connected with the Federation's main interstellar network. His interstellar mercenary card imprinted in his primordial soul instantly jumped and changed. The first change was as follows. Earth ranking, 899th. Yixian, Level 9 Satellite Realm. Interstellar Mercenary card number, the 1314880. Current Federation contribution points, 37687848 to 30 million. With the first change, his cultivation level was refreshed. From the first realm, Level 8 Meteor Realm, to the third realm, Level 9 Satellite Realm. However, no one took this data seriously. How could a satellite realm expert be so rampant in the first universe? Furthermore, how long had it been since Prince Xian left the third universe? It had only been 2 to 3 months. How could he have jumped from the first realm to the third realm? He had obviously concealed his cultivation level. In addition, the original 999th place on the Earth leaderboard had instantly jumped to the 899th place. Such a thing had never happened before in the history of the Earth leaderboard. As for the Federation contribution points, they had increased by more than 200 million points. Regarding this, everyone was already numb. Previously, Prince Xian had increased his contribution points from 0 to more than 100 million points in an instant. Now that he had increased his contribution points by 200 million points, it was not a big deal at all. As for the 30 million points behind the brackets, they were the points he had used to exchange for the 3 Level 9 genetic cultivation fluids. Compared to the 300 million points he had now, it was not even 1/10 of it. It could be said that in terms of Federation contribution points, the current Prince Xian was definitely a super tycoon. although there were more than 800 Federation experts ranked in front of him, which one of them had not climbed to their current ranking after hundreds or even thousands of years. Basically, all the Federation contribution points they had earned had been used up. Even if there were people like Yi Xian who had saved up hundreds of millions of contribution points, such people were definitely extremely rare. However, just as everyone was amazed by this and thought that everything was over, Yi Xian's contribution points and ranking data started to jump crazily again. After that, his cultivation level didn't change at all. He was still at level 9 satellite realm. However, his ranking on the Earth roll and his contribution points didn't stop changing. Every minute or so, his ranking would change. Earth ranking: 799th. Current Federation contribution points: 576878943, 30 million. Earth ranking: 599th.